We're back.
How many weeks have we been at home with nothing to do but play video games? Has it been?
It feels like 1,000 weeks.
Okay, or 0. It was. I feel like time has stretched to either infinity time or no time. Like it was either January yesterday or I was like 6 years old yesterday, and I can't tell which one of those is actually happening. But one thing is for sure: no matter how much time passes, every Sunday here on Rage Select, there is a Rage Select podcast, and I'm Jeff.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bryce.
And yes, Bryce is back to help us.
Hi.
We have a meaty a podcast full of news. Different things have happened. I feel like sometime, Bryce, you and I need to do this when there's not like one big compilation thing that happened where it's just, random stories over the course of a week. Mm-hmm. But
that's been, oh my gosh, and I'm only now putting that together. That's been like the last 3 times. This is the 3rd time that's happened. Mm-hmm. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of games. Like that's the saving grace of gaming news right now is just there are a lot of games being announced and talked about, even if there are maybe a lot of ports.
Yep. I tell you what, at this point, I'm going to keep saying it for all of the big wig publishers that listen to the Rage Select podcast. Can we please get a release date or a pre-order date, a date that the pre-orders for the Xbox and the PS5 will happen? I want to buy a lot of dumb shit on Amazon, but I have money saved up for those consoles, and I want to know. I would just settle for a price at this point. Like, I don't even need the pre-release date, just like how much are these things going to cost? And I feel like Sony and Microsoft are playing chicken with each other because they want to cut $50 off the price tag from whoever announces first, but
I think there are like especially weird propositions this go around, like the talk of the Lockhart Xbox, a lower powered but still new generation Xbox is a very weird proposition to me. It seems like it would really undercut developers to say, well, we have this new more powerful by various degrees console than the PlayStation 5, but you also have this kind of, lopped at the knees Lockhart box. And I really wonder what the result of that is going to be, because it seems really bizarre to me if someone buys a new Xbox and then what, do some of the games just not work on it? Do they just look bad? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
don't know. That's weird.
I think that this is the thing between the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One X, the Xbox One S, that we have entered. Console players have entered the PC era where like your game just doesn't look as good on your PlayStation as it does on my PlayStation because I've got the more expensive one. The same way that your game would look crappier if you had a worse video card on the PC or not enough RAM, because it's all scalable, right? I mean, like whenever you install a PC game, you always just set the detail level to whatever you want, turn on whatever gives you the best frame rate or whatever you want, and that now that shit is on the consoles, even though it's like one of the primary reasons to not to own a console was that you knew everything was going to run and it was all going to run the same way. But,
well, and to a certain degree, like that was a saving grace for the Xbox 360, right? Like it was a little lower powered, so it became the lowest common denominator, and it was also a little easier to develop for, and so that ended up being a leading platform for developers as well as just for players. But I wonder if that's a broad goal of having this very high-end box and a very low-end box. It also, now that I'm thinking about it, makes all the talk about smart delivery make a lot more sense if they're just going to be shipping Xbox One level games onto the Xbox Series boxes. Also, just the worst names ever. And coming up with a keyword to say, we'll give you the right game that you need, because we're going to have an option where you might end up with the wrong game, right? Or an incompatible title. I don't
know. It's interesting because it does make the old school, like, very clear delineation between, like, this was the last one, this was the 4, this is the 5, a lot easier to contend with. But before we get into that, Bryce, what have you been up to?
I actually just finished rewatching the supernatural drama The Leftovers the other day. And I was watching that show
It's a real breezy, easygoing show. Keep your spirits up. Everybody's happy.
Nothing puts a pep in your step like watching a woman get stoned to death. But it is actually easier to watch it binging it. When it first came out, I watched it week after week for one of the podcasts that we do. It's Spoiler in Time, and so I would watch it. Each week, and with a mystery show like that, it can be tough to keep track of what's going on, where people are at, timeline stuff, or not necessarily timeline stuff, but the order of history that things are happening. And by being able to binge that show, it makes it way, way easier to comprehend and like kind of read all the text and subtext of it, because it's interesting and it's interesting not just as like an exercise on like what would a hypothetical mass grief experience look like on Earth, but also like we can also look at these weird supernatural phenomena and ponder what they would mean, what they would actually mean if they happened in real life. So heavy, very heavy, but I don't know. I was glad to do it. I was glad to rewatch that.
I feel like I've been doing the exact opposite of what you've been doing because I took a summer break from anime, and then now the fall anime is starting to come back, and I realized that there was like 4 or 5 episodes of a bunch of shows that I was watching that were in their season 2. But then last week I was looking for something new, and I started watching The God of High School on Crunchyroll, which is an anime adaptation of a Korean either manga or light novel, and it very much just starts with like, here's the tournament. Who's the most powerful high schooler? All the high schoolers come to this tournament and beat the crap out of each other to find out who's the most powerful. And I was like, oh, I don't think this is going to work. This sounds stupid. But then they get like, it just, I don't know. It's so beautifully animated. Like the action scenes are really, really super good. And then it's within like 3 episodes, it's completely veered off that tournament arc. So it's not like a full season tournament arc, or maybe it is, but there's a bunch of other stuff happening. There's weird religious cultists and secret organizations with power, and like the one guy gave one guy some fruit to eat, and it's like there's something about that fruit. It came out of like a spooky crypt, and mortals aren't supposed to eat it. And I'm like, but why? And it's like, well, this is episode 3. You'll find out in 6 weeks. But yeah, that's been great. I've been really like,
sounds equally straightforward.
I mean, I tried. I also watched Project Power, which was really bad. Like,
oh, really?
It was very blah. Like that's what everybody said about it. That's the Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. There's a pill that gives you superpowers for 5 minutes Netflix movie, and it was like it's like they got halfway through the concept and then they just said like, that's good enough, make it, because there's nothing. I don't know. There just wasn't a lot to it. It started out very promising, and then it just ended up being very, very. It seems like a concept you could do a lot of interesting things with. You get a random superpower for 5 minutes when you take this pill. Also, you might just explode. Like you might just die from it. And then,
does it feel like they're setting up like a franchise or a sequel? Because Netflix has wanted to do this with original films, I feel like, for a little while, but I don't think that they've ever had any major success with the film that you could do a franchise with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's maybe a few that you could do more with. The Old Guard definitely set itself up like it could do more. This one totally has a sequel hook at the end of it. It was really dull. It was really boring. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how better to describe it. It was like in a movie, you reach a bunch of critical points where you can either go like an interesting way or the way that everybody thinks you're going to go. And at every point in this movie, they just went the way that I expected the story to go. And then it was over, and it was like, why did I even watch this? It just, I don't know.
How does Project Power compare to something like Bright, which I would think conceptually feels very similar in terms of like injecting fantasy into a real world and also maybe being mediocre?
I didn't watch Bright. Everything I heard about it was like, I don't care. If the reviews for Bright had all been like, this is great, I think I would have watched it. But it was right around the time when the reviews started to turn into like, this is proof that those Hollywood elites don't know what us common people like. And I've seen every Michael Bay Transformers movie, so I know what the common people like. But I was like, this still doesn't look good enough for me to take 2 hours and watch it. So I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of things that are worth doing for 2 hours, Nintendo had a 20-minute presentation of a lot of games that looked like they would be totally worth playing for 2 hours, and a lot of them were super, super creative as well. So let's jump in here and talk about them. Now, did you get a chance to watch the Indie World, Bryce?
I caught a good bit of it as it was happening, and I was able to catch up on the trailers afterwards. But I was really surprised at how many ports ended up being featured front and center. And it's like the Switch has always been a console that people said port to the Switch, and some of these make a lot of sense. Some of these are kind of confusing ports, but and then there were a few it looked like there were a few original, or not necessarily original games, but not necessarily ports of older already released games. I don't know, what did you think of the lineup for this?
I mean, I guess the thing is that while there was a lot in here that wasn't I've played a lot of these games, to be honest. When they're talking about porting stuff over to the Switch, a lot of these games I've played. Like I was thinking, I mean, spoiler alert for the end of this thing. Their last thing was that there's 2-player in Untitled Goose Game. There's co-op for Untitled Goose Game. And I thought about that. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But I've already beaten Untitled Goose Game, and I know how to solve all the puzzles in Untitled Goose Game. So, like, there's no reason for me to go back and play that even with another person, because I'd just be yelling at them to be like, no, give me the cup. Give me the cup. He's coming. Give me the cup. So, but I don't know. There were a few things in here that I really liked. Like, I checked out Hades, which was their first thing when it was in early access on the Epic Games Store before it came to Steam or anything. Hades is amazing. I don't know if you've got a chance to play it, but it's kind of top-down character action roguelike, but then every run you pick up there's currencies that you take into the next run that you can use to unlock things, but it's the framing device is that you are Hades' son who is trying to escape from the underworld, and all of the other pantheon of gods are like on your side and they're trying to help you. So Hades is like, you can go do whatever you want to, you're just going to die and then come back to the underworld, and so when you come back he mocks you. But you'll then end up having relationships with like the Furies and like a bunch of the different gods. And as you progress the story, you'll have these opportunities for little conversations with them. It's extremely, because it's a Supergiant Games game. It's like so well voice acted, has like wonderful music. It's really, really, really fun to play. I'm glad it's coming. Well, I'm also glad that it's coming to the Switch. If I'm not mistaken, I thought they had a release date on this, right? At the very end in 2020, it was just 2021. Because
that's a good question. A lot of these were, if they were not like out today, they were 2021 announcements in a lot of cases.
I think it's in the main thing, but the thing about it is that I don't think. So far, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that the Switch has had any early access games. And since this is an early access right now, I think a 2021 release date would indicate that they're looking to be feature complete by that point and put out the entire game. So,
interesting. I did not realize Hades still had not hit 1.0, even between Epic and the Steam releases. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it has yet. I mean, I'm going to have to check now to make sure that I'm not shoving my feet directly into my mouth. But I don't know. Hades is great. I mean, it's great on the PC. I haven't been disappointed in a Supergiant Games. Well, actually, no. What was the one where you played the... it's still in early access on Steam.
This Kotaku article says it's coming in the fall to the Nintendo Switch.
Okay, good. Well, then hopefully that'll mean that it'll be complete. Because I can't tell you... I don't play a lot of early access games, but I got super addicted to Hades, and then I got Like I really got good at it, and I got all the way to the end of the second level, and the game was like, that's all the content there is. The third level will be coming at some other point. Like, go back and try and start over again. And I was just like, no.
That's very difficult, especially for like a game like that, which sounds partly linear, or there's should be progression there, and you would hope that an early access title like that is a little more feature complete.
Yeah. But I was playing it like 3 weeks after it came out, so it's been quite a while. Then they announced Hypnospace Outlaw, which this one was kind of confusing to me because I love Hypnospace Outlaw, but it seemed I have this thing where I hate playing virtual mouse on a console controller, and considering Hypnospace Outlaw is full on clicking on stuff for a billion years, it seemed like that might be a little awkward.
So part of this, part of the Hypnospace Outlaw for the Switch thing is that they said that they've updated some of the controls that would work with the joystick. So if you ever use like the PlayStation web browser, and you could use the D-pad to like quick move the mouse between like selectable objects and stuff, or selectable buttons. They've got kind of that stuff in there, so it's not all like move the cursor over to the scroll bar and click and hold the scroll bar and then drag it. Like they have put some features in there supposedly for mouse, for actual scrolling and surfing. I don't know what you do for keyboard, because I don't love the Nintendo Switch keyboard very much, and Hypnospace Outlaw is definitely a keyboard and mouse game that you need the keyboard for. You're typing in tags and you're searching and you're putting in like numbers. That would be very weird. That would be a weird experience, I think, on with the joystick. I guess if you have the touch screen, it's easier. But
yeah. But if you haven't played Hypnospace Outlaw, you don't have you don't really need a good PC to play it. But if you don't have another way to play it, it's a really unique game. Like, I don't think you're going to see anything else like Hypnospace Outlaw out there.
And the Hypnospace Plus part of it is a content expansion, content add-on for all of the platforms, including the Switch. So they're saying extra more web pages in the story, more music. Like they're putting even more into that game officially, because I think you've been able to do stuff with the Steam Workshop on PC.
Okay. They also announced and then put out Spiritfarer, which I don't know. Have you caught up, or do you know what Spiritfarer is? I've been pretty plugged into this one for a while. This is from the company that made Jotun and Sundered, but this is a lot more lighthearted, and it's very much just like this young woman who has this boat where she's ferrying spirits to the land of the dead. She's the new Karen the boat lady. But then you have to like build houses and stuff on the boat in order to house the various animal spirits that are there. And you kind of go between places and solve puzzles to get upgrades. And it's all extremely well animated, super laid back. And I mean, I feel like I keep telling people this, but the only thing you need to know about Spiritfarer is that there is a button in that game to hug the spirits that are on your ship, and they're all these anthropomorphic animals. And if you've never seen like a young girl in a cute hat hug a snake, it's really charming and delightful. It's also on Game Pass, so.
Oh yeah, that I have known that it existed. I guess I didn't quite know that it had come out already. But it looks really cute, and I like these kind of like building and time. It seems like there's a bit of a time management element to this, so like I dig that. And to double down, like all of the animation is gorgeous. Like I'm watching the trailer for it right now again, and like it's great. It's a lot of bespoke animations, and it's super smooth. It seems really cool.
It is, yeah. Let's see. From there, we saw Garden Story, where you play as Concord, a big grape that is trying to save the vegetable kingdom. I was really unsure. Like when I was watching this, I kept thinking about Forager and how I underestimated Forager because it was kind of cutesy, and I was like, nah, I don't want to play that. And then I played it, and I was like, oh no, Forager is really good, and I totally love it. I don't know. Are you a fan of these types of kind of open world pixel kind of what Zelda, Animal Crossing ish, going around doing quests kind of games.
Sure, I can be down with that. That it was a weird hybrid watching the trailer for Garden Story, because you're right. There is kind of a Zelda element to it, right? In terms of like top down adventuring, but then you're also like dealing with like town building and management. It looked like maybe you had your own farm at one point. So it's a game where like I kind of don't know what it is. But it looks really cute, and the little bits of writing that you see in the trailer are fun. I think that's interesting. It actually reminds me a little bit, or it makes me think it will be similar to what is the game that just came out? Ooblets, which is a mix of like Pokemon and Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley, and I wonder if that's what this is trying to do.
It's like, so much.
Be a hybrid.
So much more than that, Bryce. Ooblets is everything. Ooblets is amazing. It's so gentle. It's the most gentle game I've ever seen in my life. Imagine Pokemon, but they don't fight. They have dance battles, and it's amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've played a few games like this where it's like taking a simplistic art style and simplistic mechanics, and then using that to basically have a combat engine, and then like a building engine and a management engine and a bunch of different things, and then wrap it all up in a charming art style. I don't know. It's weird how at a certain point when I play like 12 games a week minimum, and I'm like, I feel like I've played this game before, but it's definitely something that I think is pretty charming. Also some kind of Animal Crossing-ish vibes a little bit. I don't know. I don't know.
It looks like you have like instead of a sword, it looks like he's got a fishing rod, and that's how he interacts with enemy monsters. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah. Let's see. From there, we saw Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero. I don't know that there's anything to really say about this. Subnautica and the expansion are coming to the Switch. If you like Subnautica, that's Subnautica.
I've never played it. I've never watched anybody play it, but it's my understanding it's an incredibly popular game that a lot of people love to watch people play and stuff. So good on Subnautica.
Yep. It's pretty fun. I mean, it's basically Minecraft, but you have to hold your breath. And so part of the expansion is like the better your equipment is, the longer you can stay underwater. And then eventually you can build like an undersea base, and then you can build a submarine to go further down and stuff like that. I don't know. It's pretty cool. Takeshi and Hiroshi also looked really cool. This is from the Apple Arcade, right? It was out on the Apple Arcade previously.
Right, and I think maybe this is not quite right, but a lot of the Apple Arcade stuff, those are exclusive for mobile platforms. So a lot of those games end up on Steam at the same time, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Takeshi and Hiroshi has also been out on Steam or not. So I've actually played through almost all of Takeshi and Hiroshi, and it's very cute. The animation and the claymation videos that they show off in the trailer are really great story bits, but I will say that game is not very long. It's kind of a simple premise where you are an older brother, and you've been kind of faking it to your little brother that you're making this great RPG game. And so when he goes to play it, instead of like playing against the computer, it's you feeding him enemies, and you're balancing like how much fun he's having versus like making sure he actually survives and gets through and like gets different objectives done. It is really cute, and it's one of those games similar to the game where the floor is lava. It's similar to that, where like there's a lot of really great cinematics. I mean, the stop motion and the claymation is really gorgeous. The game is very different from what that narrative bit is.
How long would you say it is?
I had trouble getting through the final stage. The final stage was really frustrating for how easy the rest of the game was, but I would probably put it in the 2 to 3 hour range.
Okay. Because I noticed I was looking it up. This is one of those that was out today, and when I looked it up on the Switch, it was $8, which
That's about right.
Yeah, which, I mean, I wondered why it was so cheap, but knowing that it's only a few hours long, I got no problem paying $8 for 2 hours of a good game than feeling like a game than paying $60 for a game where I'm just like, when is this going to be over? God damn it. From there we saw Raji, an ancient epic, which was another out today, and this is all based on Indian folklore. It's like a top-down action RPG. It looks very, very pretty with all of the different styles of like architecture and puzzles, and you just don't see a lot of Indian like architecture in games, or at least I feel like you don't, outside of the Mumbai level in Hitman 2 that I've played 1 billion times, but that doesn't really count.
Yeah, and they had a little talk with the developers in that Nintendo Indie World keynote, and it's like an Indian development team, and that they're really tapping into a lot of the cultural imagery and iconography for it. So it looks really cool. That's a game where I wonder how big it is, because it looks like there's a lot that you see in the trailer. But that looks really neat.
Yep, I agree. And then Bear and Breakfast, which appears to be okay. So you're refurbishing a bed and breakfast, but you're a bear. And then there's also some like questing and stuff going on where like you're going out in the woods, and there's one point in the trailer where he says like, I don't want to become a movie trope of like dying in the woods or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot seems like there's a lot going on in this, but it's got a really, really good art style. In fact, is it Armor Games, the ones that made this? I believe that's right.
Possibly. It looks like it from maybe that thumbnail there. It looks really cool. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Sasquatch Story. There's a game on the Apple Arcade, and I think it's on Steam, where you play Bigfoot in a national park, and you're going around and trying to do objectives. It's basically a Bigfoot version of an Untitled Goose Game. And so it reminds me a lot of that, of like trying to blend in with human society. And it has like a kind of a doesn't it look artistically very similar to Don't Starve? Is that just me?
I think, I see it. I think a lot of that is just the way that the camera angle is kind of like goes down towards the trees, and it like these heavy lines, heavy dark lines on all the trees and stuff. But yeah, I could totally see that. I don't know. This is one where I feel like I don't know. This is one where I want to see what the reviews of it are. It could go either way. Like so many of these quirky indie games, it's like some of them rely too hard on their quirkiness, and then I'm just kind of watching the quirk go by, and there's not actually anything to do. So I always want to kind of know, like, seems like it's management, like you're doing management of the B&B, but then so it's kind of it's like Wrecketeer, but with a B&B and a bear in the woods instead of a dungeon. Like instead of running a store, you're running a bed and breakfast.
Yeah. Because there was definitely a moment in that indie showcase where you just like see what is probably a very routine part of the game, where there's a bus and you will see 20 like people piling out of it to stay at your bed and breakfast. I like management games. Anytime we can put management game stuff into games, I'm into it. And the bear's cute. It's a cute little bear.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. A Short Hike was another out today. This one is already out on the PC. This one. It's like this trailer contained keywords that were specifically on my block list for keywords of just like, go at your own pace, explore a world, and do like whatever. I mean, whatever you want. And I'm like, I didn't see that bird punch like a single person that entire trailer. Where is the violence, Bryce? I need violence in my video games. And this is just like, wander around. Yeah, man. Just, like, I like the art style. I like the kind of weird retro kind of demake pixelated filter over a 3D world thing, but it also just seemed like a very much, you're not really doing a whole lot here. And I know those are the sorts of, I know myself, and I know those are the sorts of games that I'm just gonna like tune out of really quickly. But I don't know.
It looks everything I've heard about it is that it is a very relaxing kind of open world exploration sort of game where you're a bird and you're flying around, and I think you're collecting coins is the collectible. I'd like to try it. I was trying to look this up and I couldn't, but I feel like A Short Hike is in that itch.io bundle for racial justice bundle that they had a few months back. So I think if you're on PC, you might have A Short Hike already.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking with somebody on our Discord server, and they were like, "Are you going to play Microsoft Flight Simulator for the channel?" And I was like, no. They were like, no, I hear it's really relaxing. And it reminded me one time where I had to have this like really deep think with myself about games like The Sims and like Animal Crossing. And I came to the conclusion that I'm like, I don't play games to relax. I play games to be like endlessly stimulated by loud noises and lights and violence and like story and all kinds of stuff. So whenever a game's like, yeah, just chill out. And I'm like, no, it's not.
We've got better things to do. Come on.
Yeah. Which is why Card Shark was probably the most interesting thing. This was probably the trailer that was I was the most into over the course of this. This is actually being made by the folks that made Reigns, the like card game, or no, swiping like kind of phone-ish game. And this is being made by put out by Devolver, and it's all about like Victorian card cheating, like cheating at cards. Fantastic art style. Oh, looks so good.
I'm fascinated about this. One of the other programs that I work on is a magic. It teaches magic, and doing some of the watching the game and looking at the interface and the ways that it looks like you interact in terms of handling cards and moving cards around. Seem very much in line with both kind of traditional card handling effects, whether you're double lifting or doing key cards and whatnot, as well as just like actual thievery, right? There's a shot that's in there of you just dig into someone's pocket and you grab something. So I would like to know more about what this is, because they also show like a lot of consequences for cheating, including getting execution style shot. So that seems pretty cool.
Yeah, it's and I think they said in the trailer that like your goal is to kind of like play your way up to the king and then like cheat the king at cards. So I don't know. I'm a really big fan of anytime I see something that's just like completely different. I've never seen anything like that before, and I do agree with you that like it took me back to some of my scam school editing when I was seeing some of these like lifts and
see a close up of hands riffling down a deck.
Yep. Let's see. Torchlight 3 is coming out. I don't know if there's a lot more to say about that. I mean, Torchlight 3 is Torchlight 3. I feel like Torchlight 3 has been in development for 1 billion years at this point, but that could just be because I look at video game trailers every week. But I don't know.
I know nothing about the Torchlight series. Is it a Diablo? Is it just a Diablo?
Yeah, it was like when, I think it was after Diablo 2, some of the people who worked on the original Diablo left Blizzard, created their own company, and basically made Torchlight 1, which was a streamlined version of Diablo where they were trying to like fix everything that they saw was wrong. So like in the original Torchlight, you had a pet and you could put trash loot on your pet and then send them away to go sell it, and they would just bring you back money, negating your need to have to go back to town to empty your inventory every 20 minutes. And it was like, oh, that's great. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, I got Torchlight 2 a while back and it was pretty fun, but it's Torchlight. Manifold Garden came out on all the consoles, including the Switch, which apparently this was on the PC last year in October-ish, I believe, if I saw when I looked it up.
Yeah. And it was also an Apple Arcade game, so I've played a good bit of this. This is a really interesting one. You may have seen some of the trailer stuff. This is the one where it's like in kind of a negative, in kind of like an open, ethereal space, and you're kind of dealing with these spatial and kind of building design puzzles. But like if things are on a platform, you can jump off the platform and you'll actually fall back down. It's kind of a repeating environment, kind of like human fall flat a little bit. It's kind of like that human fall flat thing where you jump off and you land back on it. And you use that to kind of solve some of these environmental puzzles. I played a good bit of it. It's not a very good fit for the phone screen and virtual joysticks. It will be good to have physical joysticks. But I love a good puzzle game.
Yeah, it's very Escher-esque. Lots of stairways.
There's gravity bending. You can change gravity.
Okay.
That's how you do the other stuff. Yeah.
And then Evergate, which this one was weird. This one rubbed me really the wrong way because I felt like every time that I saw the actual gameplay, it looked like they didn't cover the seams of their levels up very well. So it looked just like very much like they took Super Mario Maker 2 and made these levels where everything was very like delineated into like, here is a platform, here is a hazard, here is a thing. But this is some kind of like slowing down time kind of platforming puzzle mixed with charming indie story time hour, or I don't know. Something about this really just turned me off. And I think, like I said, I think it was very much the fact that nothing had the edges rounded off. So it was all just very like, here is the background, here are the platforms, here are the hazards. And it just didn't, it felt separated to me. But
and I think just aesthetically, I don't get what it's like. When I watched this, I thought, okay, so they're trying to make Celeste, but with like was it Uri? Like kind of that like fantasy nature sort of look, but then like the camera feels really far away, and the platforming is like, it looks, I don't quite. It was not a trailer that really sold me on this. Like extreme platforming games like Celeste and all are like not 100% my jam to begin with, but I kind of agree. There was like a weird cheapness to it.
Yeah,
that just didn't feel right.
Yep. And last but not least, as we already said, Untitled Goose Game is getting 2-player, and I guess was it out on the Switch? Yeah, it was out on the Switch, right?
It was out on the Switch already. Yeah,
it was debuted.
But now it's getting a physical release.
Oh, that's right. And that was it. So some good stuff in there. A lot of, like you said, this is coming to this platform. And then a couple of things. It's funny because I didn't know when I saw like games like Takeshi and Hiroshi, I didn't know that was an Apple. I'd never seen that game before, so it was like, oh, well, this is new and interesting. And then when I went to dig into it, it was like, oh no, this is already out. People already know what this is.
Yeah.
So, all right, from there, let's see. Let me see if I can get my tabs to cooperate today. So from Nintendo, let's move on. Oh my God. Here's a Goose Game to Ghost of Tsushima. Oh, yes. My transition. I always screw up all my transitions. So we're going to end with Untitled Goose Game. Speaking of co-op, guess what game just got the co-op announced for it? And the answer is Ghost of Tsushima. And now you could take all those ingredients in your brain and put them together into the actual transition like a good podcaster would. Ghost of Tsushima is getting an update, a multiplayer update. This is weird, very, very strange.
Because it's not a multiplayer game. No part of it feels multiplayer at all. I think it's a cool idea. So I guess they're making kind of a 2-player campaign and 4-player wave-based missions that you can do. And just throwing it in for free as a part of, if you got Ghost of Tsushima, you're going to get Legends for free, which makes me think that this, I mean, the trailer's cool. Trailer's big and bombastic, and it's got the little demon guys, and they're coming through the Torii gates and all that stuff. I wonder how meaty this is, because this just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but it's cool.
It's really strange because everything in this trailer is like not what Ghost of Tsushima is. So there are 4 classes with different weapons, and it's like Ghost of Tsushima, you only ever use one weapon. It's like you're gonna fight a bunch of demons. It's like there were no demons in Ghost of Tsushima. Like everything in here is from a different game that I didn't play, that was not Ghost of Tsushima. Like, how am I going to use the wind to find my objective when it's 3 other online guys with me, teabagging a bunch of demons in the weird Torii gate. Yeah, it's really strange. Like, it's class based, and there are no classes in Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know. It's very weird, and I wonder. I mean, this had to be in development for a while before the game came out, so this decision had to have been. It's not like they were like, "Oh, it sold really well. We should gin together an expansion in 20 minutes," or maybe they did. Maybe they did, and they're just really that super good. But I mean, I can definitely see using the world of Ghost of Tsushima to create, like, they have a lot of meat there to remix into something else. And I think it might have been with you that I was talking a while back about how when I was playing Yakuza, I was like, why don't more open world games reuse their giant open world that they make this meticulously crafted world and they just use it for one game and then throw it away and start over again from scratch. So I do think this is a good use of all the amazing art and textures and stuff that they have. Just shine a red light on it and put some horns on some guys and boom, you're good to go.
And it's an interesting way of putting multiplayer into a first party title like this. I mean, it would not be crazy to look at past Sony first party titles and see multiplayer that's been squeezed, and not just necessarily Sony games, but just see games where like why does The Last of Us have online multiplayer? Do you really need? Why did Metal Gear Solid 4 have multiplayer? Like, that didn't need it. Where if you say like, hey, we've made a little campaign, we've got some wave based things, it's just a little extra bit. I like that. It makes it feel like, I don't know. I look at Animal Crossing and I see all of the updates that Animal Crossing gets every like 6 weeks or something, and that's really cool. That makes that game really feel like it's alive and growing, even though all of that stuff has to be in development for a significant amount of time. And so this is like a little step towards that. I think like it's something that doesn't take away from the main game and could be a unique experience.
Let me ask, would you rather have a free multiplayer expansion or a paid single player expansion? Like further story content or free multiplayer? Because I liked Ghost of Tsushima a lot, but I don't really play very much multiplayer just because it doesn't really appeal to me. So like, I'll probably give this a shot for sure. And it actually works out really well because I deleted my save game for Ghost of Tsushima and I don't want to have to play it all from the beginning. Yeah. Don't ever remove your user from your PlayStation without backing up every single save game first. So.
Oh, no. I would also probably lean towards doing like a DLC story pack or something, which they've done with Infamous, right? Second Son had First Light, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of precedent to make for those in single player games, and so if you have a multiplayer thing like this that just feels like an add on or like a just a little bonus, I think that's a good framing for it, right? It means that when we talk about Ghost of Tsushima, we're not talking about, and also there's this Legends thing. Like, it really keeps the idea of what Ghost of Tsushima is, quote unquote, is very simple. It's a single player game in Japan.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. We also got there was some speculation that this is being added in order to milk microtransactions out of people for the online, for cosmetic or for whatnot. But Sucker Punch confirmed in a call to IGN that there aren't going to be any microtransactions, big or small. Everything's going to be unlocked both through progression, and that this isn't just going to be a way to get money out of people outside of PlayStation Plus, which I guess
I guess PlayStation Plus is the part of it because it's online, so you need Plus to play multiplayer, which is fun. I mean, that is sure. I mean, people buy Nintendo Switch online for Tetris 99. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Speaking of things you need PlayStation Plus to play, Call of Duty finally has confirmed Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, sort of. I mean, this was already leaked through a bag of Doritos a couple of weeks back. We knew that,
of course, how it always is.
We knew it was called Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, so they put out a teaser I'm using my quotey fingers here for teaser. This is the worst trailer for a video game I've ever seen in my entire life. This is stock footage of war. There is nothing here that indicates what this game is. This is Cold War stock footage of like bombs and missiles and a guy talking about communism for 2 minutes and the end. And Black Ops is already like my least favorite part of Call of Duty. Like I thought this first Black Ops was really stupid, like really the Russian guy mind controls. What's his name? That guy that Hollywood was trying to push on everybody for 5 years there. That super bland white dude that was in everything
Kevin
for a while.
Spacey?
No. Who was the Who was the protagonist from Black Ops? In any case, I thought Black Ops was dumb as hell, and of all the things they could reboot. And then I hated Modern Warfare. I thought they gritted it up so hard that there wasn't any fun to be had, because there's literally a mission where you got to break into somebody's apartment and shoot a bunch of people with night vision goggles. And it's literally just like too realistic. I don't want to do that. It looks too real when I'm shooting these people in their apartment. I'm not having fun with this anymore. Like, I like the one where you got to go to space with Jon Snow. I actually liked Call of Duty Infinite. But so this was never going to be for me. I don't know.
But we don't even know what this is. Like the Polygon article you sent me here is like, even in that article, they're like, well, we don't know if this is actually going to take place in the historical Cold War or if this is going to be a modern new Cold War. Like literally nothing is known about what this title is, which again seems really weird to me, given that it's August and I think the last time we talked about this, like, this is an annual franchise. We should know more about what these games are and what they're called and when they're going to be out, right?
I agree. Yes, 100%. I'm still trying to figure out who the name of this stupid guy is. Damn it. Yeah, I don't know. This was just like it made me so mad. It made me so mad watching this because I was like, show me something. What? No. Mm-hmm. Sam Worthington. There we go. Figured it out. Remember whenever it was trying to put Sam Worthington in everything, and it was just like, oh, right, Sam Worthington.
The guy from Avatar.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You've forgotten everything he's ever been in, right?
I think I've seen none of these things. I guess I've seen Avatar. Caramba. Okay.
Yeah. In any case, this is so boring to me. First they went. See, the thing is that I liked what Call of Duty was doing because I played the single player campaigns, and then they were like, "We're going to space," and I'm like, "Yay, space!" Like after we got over that initial, I didn't like the fact that they did the cover of the David Bowie song. I like the original David Bowie song better in the trailer for Call of Duty Infinite, but I liked Call of Duty Infinite. And they were like, "Oh, that bombed so hard, we're going back to World War II," and I was just like, "No, don't go back to World War II. I've had too many World War II games." And they're like, "Now we're going to remake Modern Warfare," and it's like, God damn it, that game's not even that old. And now we're going to remake Black Ops, and so blech. Well, from Call of Duty, let's move on to the latest online craze where you don't shoot people in the face, which is Fall Guys. Bryce, I understand, or at least I think that I understand, that you are a Fall Guy-natic, a guy Fall natic, a Fall Guys natic. What do you Fall Guys fans call yourself? fan guys?
I've actually it's Fall fans, first off.
Okay,
secondly, I have like a weird thing with Fall Guys now. So last time I was on, I was not able to talk about Fall Guys because I was in the beta and had been playing it in the closed beta that they were doing, which included an NDA. And now that the game is out, I have not played it. I haven't played it since it came out. I think going through the beta process was difficult for me because you would only get like 2 hours on a certain day to play, and they would only have certain stages available, and certain things wouldn't work, and X, Y, and Z. And now that the game's out, and because of a story that we're going to talk about here in just a minute, I feel like everyone else has got enough motivation to keep Fall Guys to be a thing until they really feels like they settle in on what exactly is included in the title Fall Guys. Because they're still doing balanced updates. They're still pushing out little fixes and things. And I think the game is really cool. I think it's really fun. It's it manages to kind of get some of that the accumulating tension of like a battle royale game, right? Like you're like ratcheting up the tension up until you see who the winner is. I think that stuff's really good. I do think that there are a lot of things that work very bizarrely in it. And so I would like to see what that game looks like in 3 to 6 months when they've like hopefully added more of these quality of life things into it.
Okay. Well, I mention it because all the big brands are thirsty to get into Fall Guys. Last week, we saw Konami being like, hey, Fall Guys, look at these Solid Snake Fall Guys, like KFC and Walmart and all this nonsense. But Fall Guys has done something different where they basically have said, rather than just opening the floodgates, they've said they invited everybody to bid. Whoever donates the most to this UK-based charity, Special Effect, basically gets their brand into Fall Guys. So it started with some kind of like opening stuff. At this point, I think that the last time I checked, the highest one, I mean, by the time this comes out, it will surely be higher, was $330,000 from an esports team.
G2, I believe. G2 or E2, something like that.
G2. Mr. Beast is in there with his crazy YouTube money. Mr. Beast. Give me money, Mr. Beast. I mean, who knows? It could happen. I'm just going to say it. It could happen. You never know.
You never know.
Yeah. But I think that this is better than just selling out directly, right? Or I don't know. Do you feel like you have a lot of feelings here?
One of the ones that went around a lot was the official Walmart Twitter was like, "Hey, Fall Guys, could we get a Walmart vest in the game?" And someone, I wish I knew who had done a quote tweet of it, being like, "Can you imagine working at Walmart for probably minimum wage, if not close to minimum wage, coming home and booting up Fall Guys and putting on your Walmart vest in Fall Guys, or seeing other people in their Walmart vest on Fall Guys?" It's like the KFC Colonel. I guess I can see Solid Snake, obviously very iconic character, but it would be, I think selling out would be a very apt word if the Walmart vest was in this game. I think it's good that they're doing this for charity, and it kind of puts a lot of that, because all of the brands really want, make a Wendy's one, make a Jack in the Box, do all, and a lot of that stuff just makes me want to gouge my eyes out. Like, I get it, you want engagement and shit, whatever, but at least there's a charity element to it, and it's likely going to be fucking G2, or maybe it'll be Mr. Beast, and it will look very innocuous, whatever the thing that they put in this game is.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, as you were describing it, I think I played a little bit of Fall Guys, and again, I realize it's not for me. They don't explode into blood when they die, so it's not violent enough for old Jeff from Rage Select. But the idea of going into this game and seeing like getting into a match and seeing the big lineup of all the Fall Guys and seeing like, here's a guy in a Walmart vest, here's a KFC guy, here's the Burger King, here's a Sprite can, and it's just like, what is this commercial that I am playing? I don't want to play a commercial. I want to play a video game.
Now, I would fuck with a can of Sprite. That would be, that one is Sprite. That actually sounds like it would be cool. But the rest of them, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get the rest of them.
Well, we did find out that we are getting from a data leak that they're going to be Chell from Portal and the Pedro from My Friend Pedro, because Devolver Digital was the publisher on this, so that we probably are going to be getting those, and that lines up with, I think right now there's like is there a Gordon Freeman one?
Yeah, there's a Gordon Freeman one. If you got it day one on PC, or it was a PC thing, and now I think they may have even put that into the PlayStation version. Mm-hmm. This is fine, I guess. I don't know. People don't think about Chell very much. People don't think about Portal very much right now, but that seems fine. Go for it. Let's do it.
Yep. Yep.
Waiting for Shovel Knight. I'm sure Shovel Knight will be next.
Well, yeah. Who is the character that you want most in Fall Guys? Even though, to be honest, Bryce, it kind of sounds like you're over Fall Guys at this point.
No.
Like you were into Fall Guys before it was cool.
Fall Guys and I are just on a break. We're just on a break. Who would I want? If I kind of would like to see. Oh gosh. This is only because I played it recently and I can't think of any other kind of iconic video game people, but like it would be cool to see like Cloud Strife in his fucking chocobo hair. Like I think you could make that work. Or like Mega Man, like that kind of you could very easily chibi up the Mega Man, helmet and the Buster and all. Yeah,
I could see it. We also found out this week from an interview, from a bunch of tweets, that apparently Fall Guys was pitched to a bunch of people at GDC 2018 before it was finally picked up. And that's interesting. I'm sure they are all kicking themselves at the moment. But the thing I found more interesting was the fact that originally it was almost called Stumble Chums, which... what do you think? Fall Guys, Stumble Chums? I like Stumble Chums personally.
I like Stumble Chums a lot. I like Stumble Chums because Stumble Chums is a thing where, like, if you really built up like an esports community, it would be the Stu Chu. It would be Stu Chu, which is, you've really got to hit when you can shorten the name of a thing that's already pretty short into something that is completely unrecognizable. So anytime I see Pogo, I don't know that you're talking about Pokemon Go. Sorry about it. But that's a sign that it's a billion people playing it. Stu Chu. Hashtag Stu Chu.
Okay. Also, apparently it was originally called Fool's Gauntlet, which is a little long. It's a little too many syllables in Gauntlet.
When I think that was when, I don't know how much you read of that original pitch, but I think that was when it was like actually a battle royale game, and anybody was up for elimination, so there was just a prize pool, and it could be that nobody wins. More of like an American Ninja Warrior thing.
Okay. Let's see. Speaking of battle royales, Epic is continuing their feud with the Apple, and they are holding a tournament, a hashtag free Fortnite tournament, and giving out like strange prizes, like a hat with free Fortnite and the llama, but with the rainbow like the Apple had in their original stuff. There's also a bunch of there's like some.
They're like Samsung phones, game consoles, a PC, or I guess a laptop, but of course, no Apple devices. Did you guys talk? I'm sure you must have talked about the free Fortnite stuff a lot when it broke. A week or two ago, right?
We talked about it last week. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't remember, apparently Epic did an update to Fortnite that would allow you to buy the V-Bucks directly from them, bypassing the Apple Store, and so Apple basically delisted it, and then almost at a moment's notice, Epic put out a parody of the 1984 Apple like weird
Super
movie
Bowl
trailer. Yeah, Super Bowl commercial. Yeah. And it's escalated because apparently it also got delisted off of the Android store as well, but you could still install
later that day.
Yeah.
And you could do it, and spoiler alert, you could do it on iOS too if you've downloaded it before. And then the other recent break in it was that Apple said, like, hey, because you have continued to violate the rules of the App Store, we're going to delete all of your developer accounts in like about a week from us recording this, to which Epic filed an emergency injunction to try and get them to not do that, because not only would it affect Epic's business, it would also affect their ability to develop the Unreal Engine for macOS and iOS, which would be a pretty significant loss given how much the Unreal Engine is used. I don't know. Do you have a take on Apple and Google v Epic?
So my whole thing is that I'm not like I don't stan Epic, but I do like how disruptive they are, because I feel like for a long time there have been a lot of monolithic organizations like Steam and Apple and stuff that have just been able to do whatever the hell they want to, because they're so big that they can bully any developer, any other organization off of their platforms with stuff like this. Like if you criticize us, we're going to, or for this is if you break the terms of service, we're going to, revoke your developer accounts. So I like the fact that they've been willing to make real brash, crazy moves. Now, that is not to say that I think that they're like the best company and oh my god, I'm not in love with companies. I don't do that thing with companies. They're companies, right? They're there to make money. But I like the fact, like, I think that Steam has been stagnant for years, and I love the fact that Epic is there to shake things up, to make Steam finally have to react to something outside of just sitting there, cashing the checks and cranking stuff out. So I like this, and I'm mostly in Epic's corner because I think that last week we talked about the way that, you know, apps and games on the Apple Store are treated differently on the like amount of money that's taken from Apple. There's some questions about, like, does Apple take what was it, like 30% on games or something like that? Like, do they take 30% of everything you buy off of Amazon?
So they take 30% on digital goods. So when you buy like a chair on Amazon.com, and you buy a physical leather chair, Apple doesn't take a cut out of that. But if you buy an ebook or if you rent a movie through Prime Video, they take a 30% cut on that. There are, like, the exceptions to that are for subscription services where after the first year that 30% goes down to 15%. And there are not numerical differences, but there are different terms if you are a quote premier subscription service. So there's a whole web article about it, but to get Amazon Prime Video and stuff on like the Apple TV and stuff, they had to carve out a lot of weird things. Well, if you are already a Prime member, you're fine and you can do stuff through that card. But if you're new, then you have to get it through Apple. And like there are weird carve outs, but generally the rule is there's one set of rules for everybody. And they're not like sweetheart deals that that are bespoke for every person in a category. I
don't know.
That's kind of that's kind of the Apple side of it.
Where do you fall on this? I mean,
this is really tough because I think both sides make a really compelling argument, right? If for Epic, they're saying like, we have this incredible largesse, and we should be allowed to compete in the market. And on the flip side, like, Apple should have to compete via its policies or its commission against other competitors. Because if you think about every other part of, say, like the iOS ecosystem, if you've ever said like, yeah, don't use the Apple Podcast app, go use Overcast. Oh, don't use the built-in weather app, go use the Carrot one that says the fuck word. If you don't like the first party thing, go and get this third party thing, and maybe you pay for it, or maybe you subscribe for it, whatever. You can't do that with the App Store or the payment processing, and a lot of people, especially now, are very aware of where their money goes and how the money that they go to support developers and creators. We get asked a lot, like, hey, what's the best place for me to buy your music? And it turns out the answer is anywhere. They all pretty much take the same cut. And so Epic says you really should have some opening there. But I also like totally get the Apple side, which is like, we have worked hard and spent a lot of money developing this population of users who are in our ecosystem and are comfortable with it and have already chosen to do things our way. Imagine a world.
Yes.
Where everyone has their own app store. You go, oh man, I want to watch Netflix. Oh, I need to update my Netflix app store through the Netflix app, and then I'll just go and play. Well, in the meantime, I'll just go and play my favorite video games. Oh well, but I got to go through the Origin app store and update my little racing game because it's not going to go through the Apple app store because they don't want to give up the cut of anything.
Yeah.
When you not to mention, like, there is absolutely, we've seen it before, a race to the bottom when it comes to privacy and security. The day that Fortnite, people have a very high trust because Apple has made it a very strong part of their brand is privacy and security. I would trust Apple to have my credit card information way more than Epic or Fortnite, way more than Armor Games, way more than any shady company churning out, knockoffs of X, Y, and Z free to play apps. So I don't think that that's the answer. That's not a world I would like to live in, but I also agree that right now, if what you make is digital goods only, and for hundreds of millions of people around the world, Apple is just going to take 30% completely, that's a really sore spot. I've got friends who work in technology companies, and they've said yeah, we can't be the type of company we would like to be on Apple because we already we are using other people's content. So we're already taking a cut out of their, the price that they sell stuff at. And then Apple's cut is, not adjusted for that. So Apple's cut completely overshadows how much cut that we would make. And so as an app, we really can't flourish or do, expand in any way on the App Store. And so, I wrote in my newsletter a few weeks back, the answer to this would be to make a time machine and go back 12 months and say, hey, everyone, through our own benevolence, 15% is now our cut for all things. That would have been the right move. Now, I don't know what you do, because if Apple capitulates while there's a lawsuit coming and there's a lot of federal attention in terms of antitrust lawsuits, if they show that they will give, then all of those other entities will say, okay, good, you can give. So let's really make let's make an example out of you.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think I would like to see a world where developers get a better shake. And as a user, I really like a lot of the features that come with using Apple processing, using Apple Pay, using just one app store. But now it's a lawsuit. So who knows which way it goes.
Yeah. For me, I think that for the longest time, I've always been somewhat anti-Apple, mostly for the reason of I found their computers to always be overpriced as somebody who's very much in the PC market. And then when you look at what was inside an iMac, or back to that generation of stuff, and you look at what the actual hardware specs for a Mac are, and it was well, this costs twice as much as it should. Or back when I used to do laptop repair for a living, and you took a Mac apart, and it's you guys have over-engineered this so that if an end user tries to take your laptop apart, they will break it and have to come to the store hat in hand to get you to put it back together again. So for me, it always seemed like that every product that Apple ever made was overpriced, over-engineered, and that they were able to get away with it because the brand had a status attached to it that had, and they were early on everything. So if you wanted to be right out on the cutting edge, they're the ones who are just we're going to take away the CD drive from all of our computers. We're going to, it's going to be USB only. We're not going to have any PS2 ports on this system. So I kind of get that, but it always just seemed like a rich status symbol to me. All Apple products seemed like a rich status symbol to me, where it's the PC, it's you get it cheaper, you can do more with it because the architectures are a lot more open, so you can kind of put whatever the hell you want to on it. And then the major thing for me was that the games the games weren't available on Apple products. It wasn't until iOS. And then there were a bunch of things I wanted to play on an iPhone, but by the time that happened, it was still iPhones that was when people were lining up at the Apple store to get the new iPhone, the shut up and take my money meme. And iPhones cost an arm and a leg. And people are well, if you just buy a $700 phone, then you can trade it in, you can sell your iPhone 3 on eBay and get $500 for it, and then put an additional $300 to get the iPhone 4. And it was that sounds horrible. I don't want anything to do with this weird system. I mean, I've really had a problem with Apple for a long time, just to be upfront with it. The way that iTunes for the longest time wouldn't keep a record of your purchases. So when I worked in a laptop repair store, we had lots of people who came in who spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on their iTunes library, And the primary thing that they needed from us was to pull as much of their music off of a dead hard drive as they possibly could before we replaced it, because Apple didn't have an option for a long time just to say like, hey, just re-download all of my music, like download it all again. Like it was literally like you got one download and then that was it. It was on your hard drive. So I've kind of had a problem with their general ethos as a company for a long time. And so, yeah, it's weird though, because like I said, I don't think these Epic are not angels, right? Like they're using the fact that they've got all this Fortnite money to basically bully their way into markets that nobody should be able to get into otherwise. But on the other hand, that's the only way at this point that's the only way that Apple's going to change their payout structure, right? Is if somebody who is big enough who says like, okay, like do it, take Fortnite off your phones and we're going to take Unreal off of the Apple. Like Unreal support is gone for Macintoshes, so you can't play any Unreal games on a Mac or on a phone. And guess what? We'll just see what happens. Like because they've kind of shown themselves to be the kind of company at this point that doesn't care. Like they've actually done things that I feel like have been that no sane company would do. Like when they raised the split for store assets that people got, or like reduced the amount of cut they took from developers just because they had so much freaking money from Fortnite that they could afford to do things that you just never see a company do. So I don't know. That's where I am at this point. I hope that it gets busted up a little bit just because I'm sick of companies like Apple and Google and everybody, all of them, Microsoft, and they're so big that they just get to set their own. Like I'm just so sick of Steam being this mediocre piece of shit software for years that makes one incremental change every 4 years and everybody's like, hooray! And it's like, no, there's no reason to accept this except for the fact that they got in first and captured the market. And so now, and it doesn't matter if their rating system has been broken for 5 years. We've just learned to live with it. So it's, what are you going to do? Anyway.
Yeah. And this is like, and this is not, Epic versus Apple. This is also like Google is a part of this. And a lot of the things that Epic had said that they wanted to do in the Apple lawsuit, like have their own app store, you absolutely can do in Google. Like you can sideload stuff, and even though Google has a little thing that says, hey, be careful of stuff that you download from a shady third party, you can still do it.
Yeah.
Google's rules on a lot of that stuff are a lot laxer, and they still have the same issue. This is for fear of picking a side, because I think that I do legitimately think that both sides have very strong arguments. The only really strong thing in common between Android and iOS is that 30% cut. And Fortnite being one of the biggest, if not the biggest digital game anywhere in terms of player base or amount of revenue that they pull in, would most benefit from a reduced commission from the operating systems. And so, like, yes, it would be great for all of for Steam, for iOS in the App Store, for the Google Play Store, for all of these digital storefronts to get better. And maybe that just has to go hand in hand with a company that also is a vendor for those stores and would love to make even more money on the ridiculously ludicrous business that they're in. I mean, talk about like Apple has very high profit margins, which is something that Epic points out in their lawsuit. Like, it's also like it's okay to profit off of your work to a degree, right? You don't have to sell things on a loss and try to make it up in software or what have you. So it's a very gray situation.
There's no good guys and no bad guys here.
Right,
yeah, none of them are your friend. None of them are your enemy. They're all just big faceless Titanic moving companies. Like,
it's also weird how like hyper polarizing this issue is, right? Mm-hmm. Like we had a long kind of period where like console warring had really, really cooled to, safe to touch even. And now you look at where the consoles are, and all three makers of home consoles are making very different products with very different philosophies. And console warring is like so much of a non-concern. And now you look at like the PC game, right, where Steam has kind of had to be bisected by Epic Games, and the mobile market, which is kind of feisty. You get a mixture of that, and now it's oh, screw Epic, they get paid for timed exclusivity. Oh, screw Apple, they're taking their phones are too much. Like very personal reasoning behind what is a very business situation.
Yep. I will be the first person to say, do not put your loyalty behind a company. Put your loyalty behind people like me, Jeff, and Bryce. You should be loyal to content creators. No, I'm just kidding. You should be loyal to whoever you want to. But I've always found it very strange as somebody who worked in like I'm old. I got my start in like working for these big corporations. I've worked for Apple, I worked for Microsoft, I worked for Dell, worked for Sony back in the old days. And like, so I find it very strange when people have their identity tied up. Like, it was always weird to me, even back to the iMac days, where people were like, I'm an Apple guy. And it's like, Apple really is it's like a status symbol. And it was always a very weird thing to me to be like, you're the thing, the computer is the status symbol. It doesn't make any real sense to me. Like, but
and like it's the same thing with console wars, right? Like, if you're 13 and your parents might only get you one, if even that, you're gonna think long and hard about which one you want, which one is the best, and then you're gonna wear that with pride because you may not get the other one ever.
Yep.
And so it is part status symbol. It's part it's part of an identifier a little bit for young people, in terms of like, you have to think so hard about it and you have to care a lot about it. I mean, imagine, right? Like, imagine thinking that way about an oven, right? Well, the Samsung oven, it has a tray for the special Samsung ready-made meals, and
right.
So that's, I think, really like that's what this is, right? It's spending the money on the best box that you're going to spend even more money on later. And when you're a kid, which is what this industry appeals to, you think long and hard about that. You have nothing but time to think about it and commit to your decision and really feel either really proud of what you picked, or maybe you feel ashamed of it, right? Oh, I had a Lynx. Like, it's a box. It's a piece of fucking plastic. Yeah. I got a PlayStation Classic back there. That thing fucking sucks shit, but it's neat and it doesn't define me.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. All you have to do, I did a podcast with Matt Frank a few weeks back. We watched the, I think it was like the Night City dive. No, it was before that. It was the Microsoft thing that was a couple weeks back. And it was the first time that I'd ever asked him to watch a live stream. And he was like, oh, so I was watching that live stream and I was trying to read the chat while the live stream was going on. I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And he was like, what can tell me about that? I'm like, just don't do it. That's the answer. Don't go in there. That's not a safe place to be, because it doesn't matter if it's a Nintendo Switch Direct. There'll be people in there being like, when are you going to show Halo Infinite? And it's like, what? That's not even on this. That's a whole different... Anyway. You know what? We have some more news, but we are going to go ahead and take a break here for a few minutes, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to do the news, and then if we get some time, we're going to do some questions. So everybody stick around, and we'll see you in just a moment. My throat has been really scratchy this week. Let me try that again. And we're back. There we go. I didn't hit the high note on that one. Welcome back, everybody, to the second part. We're going to do some more news, and we're going to see if we can't get to some questions. And I don't know, Bryce, it's possible that if we have enough time, We may even do one of Jeff's really quick game reviews that I don't do that much anymore. So,
ooh,
yeah, you have to
for that.
You have to watch all the way to the end to find out if that's the case. So we were talking about the Epic Game Store previously, and big coup, this is a big thing that I'm sure is making a lot of people super happy right now, and they're not at all mad and on Twitter being angry. Hitman 3 is going to be an Epic Game Store exclusive on the PC, which is kind of nuts. I think this is the first time that there's been one that I almost cared about. At this point, I don't really care because I just have Epic installed and I get some games on Epic and I get some games on Steam, and we already broke the seal with Origin and the Bethesda launcher and Uplay. I've already got like 8 different dumb launchers. When you were talking about a million launchers in the last part, I was like, yes, we already have that. It's called the PC.
That's true.
But yeah, Hitman 3 is going to be an Epic Games exclusive, Epic Games Store exclusive on the PC. Any thoughts, Bryce? Are you playing Hitman on the console or PC?
I had been playing Hitman on the PC. I think I only got the demo of Hitman 2, which I think is just that beach level. So I've not even had a chance to dive into that. I think personally, looking at the coming games hardware and stuff, and knowing that Hitman is coming to the new consoles, that I think that's gonna be where I start to make my major purchases and things. I guess I still haven't decided yet, but I do have Hitman 1 on PC. I think I said this a little bit in the last segment, but like Epic doing exclusivity deals. Oh no, I didn't mention this. Maybe I mentioned this previously. Epic doing exclusivity deals is good because it's good for developers. Mm-hmm. Like this means that IO gets paid to make a PC port, right? Yep. They will actually get, if not just a flat out monetary amount, a good deal to do so. And the PC is the best place for that, right? Like console exclusivity, like that actually keeps it away from people who have the other box, right? Mm-hmm. This is like, it's the other clicker on your thing. I think it's weird that this is like the most heated thing still in terms of like we talked a bit before about how polarized people are of like exclusivity deals, but they're actually good. There are actually, turns out, sorry about it, they're actually good because it means someone gets paid. Steam doesn't pay anyone to make PC ports. Mm-hmm. No one is paying people to make PC ports. And
also,
even publishers take on that risk too.
Yeah, well, and this is, in all honesty, such a good thing. I mean, you touched on this before for IO because they got so jacked by Square with the whole Hitman 2016, and then Square made them busted up into episodic, which personally I thought was a really good move. Like playing those levels episodically was like way better. I mean, I knew how to play it, but I think I tried to get Jason to play Hitman, and he just played Hitman, did the walkthrough for like each level, beat the game in like 4 hours, and was like, yeah, I don't get what you're on about. Like, what's the big deal with Hitman? It's like, no, you have to play every level 100 times. He's like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, no, you have to. But the fact that they like that, then Square Enix like detached them, and now they're self-publishing. Like, this is, I can't imagine if you were the CEO of IO not taking this deal to kickstart your way into into having that leg up to the point where you don't have to worry about the sales numbers quite as much in this early days.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even if Hitman is on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, like there's probably a deal, maybe not money, but marketing or something. Like there are deals go into like who shows up on keynotes. Like deals are a part of this business, and it's so strange to me that people are like against that when that's how you make money on this. This is a very consumerism focused industry. Yep. If you like these games, you would hope that they would be successful for not just the games, but also for the people who make them.
Yep. And that was part of the news from Hitman this week. But the most exciting thing, I was so excited. I'm so excited. They finally put out a trailer for a Hitman 3 level, and it's the Thornbridge mystery, and it's fucking Knives Out in Hitman. It's like this, oh my god, and there's a murder mystery, and like they said in their blog that this is like one of the approaches to this that the house is going to have. It's like there's been a death at this big house with this like very rich family that all have dark secrets, and there's hidden passageways, and just yay, 100%. But then at the end of this trailer, it turns out that Agent 47 is coming in as like the world's best private investigator to solve the mystery, and I'm just like, oh god.
This is so perfect.
Oh, God.
Is so perfect. Like, you do have to kill it. I'm assuming that it's like, okay, well, you have to kill whoever killed the person who was murdered, which is so, like, this is really, really smart. It was, I don't know how I feel about what you mentioned, and that this is just one of the story kind of branches, right? Kind of the pre-made sort of ways you can work through a level. I guess in my mind, when I hear that concept of, okay, well, you need to murder the person who murdered someone in this big murder mystery, I would think that would be an even more all-encompassing thing. Maybe it's procedural, and maybe the way it happens changes every time, and that makes it much more involved. But I also understand that, like, Hitman at this point is a platform, and you have to work within certain limitations. But this more than anything has sold me so much on Hitman 3.
I think, it's possible that considering what they've done in some of the previous levels of Hitman, I feel like this could be the sort of thing where it would not be difficult, given the tools that they've shown, to have like a roll of the dice where there's like four different, the murderer is one of four different people, and then you have to, it's randomized which one is which, because, I've played Hitman before. There's going to be a fucking server room in the basement, in the secret compartment that you have to get into to get some data on the Constant and what he's up to and blah, 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 and all the stuff that's going on in Hitman. Did you actually play through Hitman 2 then?
No. I've seen the beginning of it where they explain the Constant, and then I've talked to you about some of the lore of that game.
Okay. But yeah, well, I think that when I say that this is one of the approaches that, like, obviously that this is one of like the starting things, right? Because like in some of the levels, like in the resort level, Haven, the second DLC, there's one of those where you come in. And when you come in normally, you are Tobias Reaper, guest at the resort, and there's like a lot of interaction that you do where they're playing into the fact that like they know that Agent 47's called Tobias Reaper, that he's a thief, and this person's like, oh, I heard you can steal stuff. I want you to do this thing for me. It also reminds me of in the Golden Handshake, which was the bank mission. There was a way to get into that mission where you could literally knock out a guy, take his clothes, go on a job interview, and if you did the interview well enough, then you would get access all the way up to like the top part of the bank, because you got hired on as like a senior financial advisor because they were so impressed with it. Anyway, I don't know. I'm such a sucker for this game franchise. I love it, and this is just like, we saw a little bit of the Dubai mission when they originally announced it at the PS5. This is much more interesting to me. Dubai looks like, it's going to have some cool stuff. You're going to go outside. There's going to be a big opulent party. But that reminds me more of the final mission in Hitman 2, where you're at this big secret society party. Whereas this reminds me of like the stuff that you remember for all time when you're playing in Hitman, where you're just like, oh my God, that was incredible. There were so many different little things to do. So plus, somebody pointed out, I listened to this podcast called Watch Out for Fireballs, and they did Hitman and Hitman 2, and they pointed out that like, man, IO Interactive is good at making a game where you've got to murder a bunch of people, but then making you be like, oh, I hate all these people and they totally deserve to get murdered all day. I'm going to feed him to a shark. I'm going to throw him over the side of a building. I'm going to set him on fire. I'm going to drown him in his own vomit. Like, just, and you never feel bad about it.
I wonder what they write into the rules of this level, the Thornbridge level, to make it so that you don't just murder the entire family, right? I mean, there's got to be. I would imagine they would put some thematic, because it doesn't seem like maybe there's some house staff around, but this isn't like one of the other levels where it's a semi-public place and there are a lot of passers-by. This is like really focused, at least this trailer is, on, what is that, six or seven people.
Well, we do see at the beginning when he's walking up, we see some security in the foreground. So there's probably going to be that. I think the thing that I'm most excited about, though, is because I think everybody thought Knives Out when they saw this, but I thought Ready or Not. And I was like, how good would it be if there was a Halloween level in the spooky mansion that was like Ready or Not themed?
Wait, that's that movie from like a few years ago, right? The hide and seek one? Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Oh my god, that would be good. I did. I saw that in theaters. That's a great movie.
It was so good. It was so good.
Oh fuck, that's. I want to play it there
now. There's some other Hitman stuff that came out this week. One I don't think I actually sent you. So we got the announcement for Hitman VR. And last week, I think there was a trailer that they showed for it. And I was really afraid during that trailer because there's a part where it was in Sapienza where he has the crowbar and taps a guy on his shoulder and then he turns around and he hits him with the crowbar. I was really afraid that they were going to be using the PlayStation Move controllers for VR, and I don't like that because Hitman's such a precise game about like timing and where you go and how fast you get to a place that like no locomotion method in any VR game is good for like quickly getting from one place to another. I always feel like I mess it up. But there was actually an interview where they said that what they're going to be doing is actually not the Move controllers, although it's possible they might do it, but what they were showing was a hybrid where they were literally using the DualShock, but then they were also using the motion controls in the DualShock for some of those more like interacting with the environment type of things. And I'm 100% down for that because I think that developers get way too hung up in VR on making sure that you have hands when I don't think that you need hands. I think you could use a controller. You don't look at your hands when you're playing video games. You can use a controller in VR. It doesn't have to be the sort of thing where you can see one-to-one, hand-to-hand.
And it's a major testament to how forward-thinking that this trilogy of the Hitman games is, that all of the Hitman levels 1, 2, and 3 will have VR support. Mm-hmm. Like that doesn't just happen overnight. That comes from like really having a very strong vision from the beginning. And getting what they need to out of that Square Enix deal, right? So that they can continue to access that stuff. I mean, it's really smart and it's great. I mean, I know that they're calling this what trilogy is this?
World of Assassination. No, that's just what the
World
tag
of Assassination.
Is that what it is?
That's the name. Okay. That's the name of the trilogy. That's what they said on one of those things. But I want even more. I don't know. Don't give me a trilogy. I mean, I guess finish up the story for the whatever, but keep doing it. If it's a platform, make it a platform. Hitman at Big H, the Big H store. Maybe you have to workshop that.
Hey, you know what? I would totally pay like a subscription fee to just get one new Hitman level every month, except for the fact that those Hitman levels are so freaking intricate that like I can't even imagine that it'd be possible to make one of those in a single month.
Not every month, no.
Yeah. But
keep doing seasons, right? Like,
yeah,
like that episodic model was really cool, right? It made for a lot of conversation about that game, and at the end of it, you have a full experience. You can go get that full experience now with Hitman 1.
I say to this day, it's the best episodic game that's ever been created because it's the only one where you need to play through the same game, the same level that came out that month multiple times, and you get more out of it the more you play out of it. So, you're not going to play through The Walking Dead episode 4 80 times to get all of the achievements, but like you totally could do that with Sapienza and Hitman because there's just a million things to do in that level. Yeah. But a million things minus one because there's no ghost mode. Ghost mode is going away from Hitman, as well as online co-op support for the Sniper Assassin mode. I never engaged with either one of these because the idea was interesting, but it's not why I play Hitman. The sniper modes, even I've kind of done 100% on most of every level in Hitman, except for the sniper ones because that just aren't as interesting. Like there's some of the stuff that's really interesting, but shooting 20 ducks that are around the map is not super interesting.
Yeah. And like, look, I'm sure they have very strong analytics of how well those modes get used. You know, I look at Grand Theft Auto Online. I don't know if you've played Grand Theft Auto Online, Jeff, but that game has been around for about 30 years now. And no part of that game, it seems like, has been allowed to be decommissioned or redesigned. And so you have this game that is built on user experiences for the PlayStation 3 still being used today on fucking the next generation of consoles, right? So you're driving to, you know, mission start points, or you're using the phone interface to access things. You know, you are like lobbying for every single thing, which means plenty of stuff doesn't like there's so much cruft in that when it's like the advice of like it's good to say no, and sometimes it's good to say no, sometimes it's good to quit. And this, especially if you're self-publishing your own game, helps keep the scope really, really trim.
Yep, I agree. Let's see. In other games that are on the Epic Game Store news, we got some more Control news this week. Last week, we got the news that Control will not have next-gen upgrades unless you buy the big Complete Edition that's coming out next week. And we got a little bit of a blog post, which it's funny. The blog post from 505 goes to a oh no, it's back. Okay, when I was trying to get to it earlier today, it was just sending me to a 404 page. But basically, there was this,
should have been a 505 page, but
the explanation was every avenue we pursued, there was some form of blocker, and those blockers meant that at least one group of players ended up being left out of the upgrade for various reasons. As of today, we can't offer an upgrade to everyone, and leaving anyone group out feels unfair. We understand this is not what you want to hear. It got me thinking actually about like, were there any games on the PlayStation 3 that had been out, or the Xbox 360, that had been out for a significant amount of time, that then had the ability to purchase just an upgrade path into the next gen? Because I know that like Assassin's Creed, if you bought the one, then you got the other one, but that came out right around the same point as launch. And I'm trying to think if there was something that like if you bought I know this is not the case, but like if you bought Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation 3, if you could pay $20 to get it on the PS4. And I can't think of any example in the consoles of that being a thing where there was a very clear upgrade path, like maybe Call of Duties or Battlefield.
God, I wish I knew the specifics, but I think that there was a handful of major annual games where you could pay a $10 fee to upgrade to the next version if you owned it digitally or something like that. Like it was... there are cases of it happening and not a lot of cases of it happening. I feel for 505 with this, right? This is like a very hard call to make. It's not free. It's not cheap to publish new versions of games. It's not, you know, it doesn't take zero time to like re-optimize those for new platforms and new hardware. I think they make a good point, which I maybe should have been accompanied with their initial announcement of this, that like, hey, you could still play Control on the new systems with backwards compatibility, right? Which is like a thing that for whatever reason not enough people are tapping into, right? Like I don't own Control yet. I've not had a chance to play Control. I would like to play Control. And now there's a $40 package that gives me the game and all these DLCs and things. And when I get the PlayStation, I know I'm going to get the PlayStation, I'll have the nicer version of it. I'll have the new hot version of it. But also Control is like a game from last year, right? It's I mean, it's not even a 2020 game. It's a 2019 game.
2019, yep.
So you're kind of... It would be a weird sell to say like, okay, well, now the end of 2020, you're also getting this free patch. I don't know. And then, however, all of that intersects with So you get the PlayStation 4 version, and then, the PlayStation 4 Pro version, which developers are supposed to make and for free and just automatic, and what backwards compatibility intersects with either of those versions of the game, and how that influences development going forward. I don't know. But it's a weird one, and I think you're not going to see a lot of other publishers saying like, yeah, you're not going to get a free upgrade to our game for even more recent games.
Yeah. That's the thing that I thought about was like, I feel like Control is in some ways, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Control. It was my favorite game from last year. Like, let's be clear here. I'm not unbiased when it comes to this, but like, what other games... I feel like I haven't seen a slew of games that have said, oh, our game that came out in 2019 is totally going to be available on the new gen consoles for free, no upgrade cost whatsoever. Like, and then the other thing that's a weird question or something to think about maybe is that I didn't actually realize that the Ultimate Edition of Control was going to be $40, which for a game that came out last year and all the DLC, that's a kind of a hell of a deal. And then I'd be willing to bet that if you just, halfway through next year, there's going to be a sale where you can get that whole thing for $20 on, a PlayStation sale, like, this the year of launch titles, get 50% off selected things. And so, I mean, everything eventually becomes super cheap on all the platforms eventually. But I guess I'd be really interested, like I'm asking the audience, what other games from last year do you feel should have a free upgrade path into the next gen? Like maybe take all the Xbox stuff out because it's all kind of covered on Game Pass anyway, right? So Ori and Gears and the Halo Master Chief Collection stuff, that's all going to be free. But like, what 2019 video games should have an automatic update to run on the next gen platforms? Because I mean, like when we went from the PS3 to the PS4 era, like the first 2 years of the Xbox One and the PS4 were like, here's Darksiders 2 on, here's the basically the PC version
Remaster.
Right. Yeah. Every game just up-res to a higher resolution.
And with backwards compatibility seemingly across the board, you're going to have a much harder time if you're a publisher or content owner to make that justification to the audience again, right? Like, hey, buy Shadow of the Colossus remastered. No one's going to fucking do that. And so this is so weird. I would love to hear what the audience thinks. One other thing about this Control thing that I think probably was worth a rewrite in their press release was saying, can you scroll down to that quote? Saying basically, we don't feel that there's a way to do this without leaving any one group out. There's no way to give an upgrade to everybody without leaving someone out. Well, I guess except for the fact of giving it away to the people who already bought it, I think would be a way to give it to everybody without leaving anyone out.
True. True.
But like I heard another podcast, them speculating what those different ways would have been, right? Like if you own one of the DLCs, both of the DLCs, if you got it, day one, if you bought it for a certain price, like all these different things. And yes, if you made a stipulation, then there would be stipulations to it. But I would say you could find some other way to say, we don't want to leave anyone out, when you could have not left anyone out if you made it for free.
Yep. That's true. Well, one game that is going to be free if you buy it on this generation is The Avengers. And did you play the Avengers beta, Bryce?
I did not.
Okay.
They've never really made a strong sell to me on this game. Have you played it? What was your really quick? What did you like about it?
I played it. I thought it was relatively enjoyable. It was kind of mindless. It made me realize that this is what people like out of Destiny, where it's just kind of something you could put on a podcast or YouTube video and just kind of grind, except that it had a little bit more. It appealed more because the Avengers are people that I care about outside of, the esoteric fucked up characters in Destiny I don't give a shit about. But like Iron Man, I know who that is.
Yeah.
But we got a list of there's some data mining that happened, and we got a list of what we think are probably going to be DLC characters for the Avengers. I'm actually really happy this is a big long list, because one of the things about this was that I actually leveled up I think that the beta only lets you level up to level 15, but I think that 20 might be the max for all the current characters, because I think at 20 you would unlock all of the powers that they had. And in the first beta, I got all 4 of the characters there 80% of the way leveled up, and then the second weekend, it took me like another 2 hours to get the other points that I needed to get everybody leveled up. So like I hit the level cap for
quick.
all of them really quickly. So, but this list is Ant-Man, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Falcon, Kate Bishop, who is apparently another Hawkeye, Marvel, Mockingbird, Quake, Scarlet Witch, She-Hulk, Vision, War Machine, Wasp, and the Winter Soldier. Which is a good chunk of Avengers people. Anybody is your favorite Avenger on the list? Bryce, do you have a favorite Avenger, Bryce?
Oh, I have favorite Marvel heroes, but they're not Avengers, or they're young. I like the Young Avengers. I get Kate Bishop is in the form of the Young Avengers, so there's that. I'm interested. Doctor Strange is kind of cool. It would be interesting to see what an Ant-Man or Wasp would look like in a game like this. Because with as many characters as there are, it makes me think of like Watch Dogs Legion, where there has to be some amount of archetyping going on. Did you notice any of that in the beta?
Yes.
It's not the Hulk. It's just, here's the big green guy who is that version of the Bruiser character.
They were all different. Like Hulk and Kamala Khan played somewhat similarly, but they weren't like, Kamala Khan had a lot more range because her arms stretched, so she could like reach out and grab people and pull them into her. Whereas the Hulk he could like pull up boulders and throw them, but he was mostly like a very much up close kind of, he was like what it really reminded me more of was your normal MMO archetypes, where like Hulk was like a tank, and then Kamala Khan had some like healing abilities, and then Iron Man and Black Widow both had ranged attacks, but Black Widow had more melee that could be activated. The thing I didn't actually realize is that like Iron Man was a very complicated character to play, because he has a full set of melee moves, and then he has ranged attacks, but he has 3 different types of ranged attacks. He has repulsors, a laser, and missiles that you have to switch between using the D-pad. And then when you fly and you click in the left stick, he goes into like an Anthem style flight sim mode that has a whole separate set of attacks that depend on like which weapon do you have equipped, how are you targeting, and then all those weapons are fed by a gauge that refills with melee attacks. So it's like you've got to save up your ranged attack.
So you're going back and forth.
Yeah, so you're using those up as kind of like big damage dealers, and then he's a little bit more fragile than like the Hulk. When you use the R2 button with the Hulk, it just goes into gamma mode. He just basically gets health back for every hit that he does. It was more complicated than I thought, and it was more fun to play than just like, but see, here's the thing. My credibility is gone. I didn't think Anthem was that bad. I kind of liked flying around in the Iron Man suits and shooting stuff. Like, it wasn't great. It wasn't on my Game of the Year list or anything, but like, people were like, this is garbage. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like flying around and like shooting missiles and upgrading my suit, putting a different colored cape on it for some stupid reason. Like, it wasn't the worst thing. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I pre-ordered it obviously to get into the beta to make hashtag content for Rage Select. So I own it. But
here's a question. Here's I guess one other question I have in terms of what the experience of the playing Marvel's Avengers is. And I guess it kind of goes into my other question about archetyping the characters. Like, it seems to me that this game sounds very similar to the Lego franchise of games, especially the Lego Marvel games, where there are a lot of characters in them, and hey, these characters have flying, these characters have webs and sticky stuff, these characters have batarangs, you know. Did you get a feel like it was that that interchangeable? Like how much like is being the Hulk or being Iron Man like really noticeably different in terms of like the story that is in this game?
So it's a little hard to say. Most of the beta was like their war zones and their drop zones, which are just kind of generic missions where you just go in and you're getting loot and you're getting just beating up a boss or some guys or whatever. But there was one mission in there that was like, this is a Hulk mission. You have to play as Hulk. This is a story about the Hulk and Bruce Banner.
Okay.
So from what I understand about the game, there's going to be kind of a single player track where there are these generic missions that you kind of just play with anybody to get the equipment and the upgrades for the equipment. But then there's also going to be a series of specific story missions for each character, which if this list is correct, and if each one of these characters comes with, say, a 3 or 4 mission story arc that ties into the big MODOK thing that they're doing, if they put these characters out at a good clip, that would be the sort of thing where it's like, oh, hey, Black Panther's out this month. 1, it doesn't cost anything to play as Black Panther. 2, there's going to be a bunch of story missions that I haven't seen before. So, let me just fire up Avengers, and this weekend I'll spend 4 hours playing around with Black Panther and see if it's fun to play as Black Panther, if I like Black Panther more than She-Hulk, So I don't think that this is going to be like a Spider-Man on the PS4 level of like narrative, super tight mechanics, like it's super enjoyable. I think what it's going to be is if you want to play Avengers with your friends, if you on Friday you guys want to jump on, put it on impossible difficulty because you're all leveled up and do the raid against Arnim Zola to see if we can all get some good purple gear from it. Like that's what it is. And I think there's a track for that. Like I don't know if I would recommend it as a full $60 purchase, but then if they do stick with the whole like new characters are free, we're funding this with microtransactions things. I mean, I don't know. Again, like I said with Control, maybe don't buy it on day one. I mean, obviously don't buy it on day one. Wait for people to say stuff. But this also seems like the sort of thing with the microtransactions where maybe Christmas, maybe in early next year, you might be able to pick it up for $50 on or $40 on a sale. And at that point, it's like, well, here's $40 for a passable Avengers game that you can play with your friends and hang out, and you could be Spider-Man or Hawkeye or whatever you want to be. So I don't know.
Okay, cool.
I don't know. Anyway, let's see. From there, we got some news about this Batman game that they need to just go ahead. I think by the time this podcast comes out, they will have already said it at the what is the thing they're doing right now? The Warner Brothers Fandom. Ugh, gross.
Ugh.
So they had a bunch of things that we've seen. One of them was for the Court of Owls. One of them was for what was the other one? There was one that was talking about Two-Face.
Access code.
Yeah. They have this website where if you put in certain access codes that they're putting in these weird videos on their Twitter, you can get access to stuff. This all seems to be leading up to the worst kept secret, which is that the Arkham Origins team is putting together essentially a reboot of the Arkham franchise, probably post-Origins, pre-Asylum, with the Court of Owls storyline from the comics. And that then Rocksteady is doing the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League game that we saw the not trailer but teaser for last week. So I don't know. This is
yeah. I mean, it also must be a really tumultuous time for any game company owned by or working on these WB titles, because it seems like any one of them could be on the selling block right now. It's just on a whim, and these are not cheap. These are not short games to make.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm so torn with Warner Brothers because I loved Harley Quinn. I thought that was just like the best thing I've seen out of DC in a long time, and I've heard nothing but good stuff about Doom Patrol, even though I haven't actually sat down to watch it yet. So it seems like there's like some good stuff happening in there. But then, I don't know, a new Arkham game. I'm really curious about this Suicide Squad Kills the JLA thing, because that's like, Rocksteady hasn't put out a game since Batman VR on the PlayStation. And what have you guys been working on for a million years? And it's a Suicide Squad game. I think I'm probably just heartbroken because I wanted a Superman game because I love Superman. Nobody ever does Superman right. So
it's too easy. He's OP.
No,
he needs to be like one of those character action games where he's like, he's been hit by all this krypton and he's got to get his superpowers back.
That's not right. That's not right.
That'd be awesome. Then you have progression. Then you have
No, there are so many people who could kick Superman's ass in the DC universe. He's vulnerable to magic. You could bring in Darkseid and the Manhunters and Mongol and there's so many characters that can beat up Superman. I get so tired. Anyway. We also had a story this week about some bad stuff going on at Rocksteady. This is actually a really interesting story because there was basically a story in The Guardian about a group of female employees at Rocksteady in 2018 who basically kind of penned a collective letter talking about problems that were going on inside of the company, including transgender slurs, derogatory, chatting about women in a derogatory or sexual manner, sexual harassment, leering, inappropriate comments, etc., etc. Apparently, this was kind of forwarded to their HR, and then there's kind of, I feel like, some divergence about what happened from there. Like the company seems like their statement on it was that they were working internally to try to figure out ways to solve this issue, but then one of the people who penned the letter kind of leaked this to the Guardian this week, but then the people who remained at Rocksteady penned another letter saying we kind of feel like this is airing dirty laundry. It's a strange situation. I'm never entirely sure how to talk about this stuff because I just don't know how to. So.
This one is really strange because I'm coming into this just today, and so you have this story based on this 2-year-old internal letter, talking about issues in the workplace, and then you also have what Rocksteady says is an unsolicited letter from the remaining female video game developers who have stayed on at Rocksteady since that original letter, saying hey, this was not meant for public, as a public thing. This was, our identities, we kept this out of the public spotlight because we don't want our identities attached to this. And to a certain degree, their new letter says hey, Rocksteady has made changes in the past 2 years and has tried to be a better place. So it's super weird. They make a point of saying we received the following unsolicited letter, which is
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's better than not saying it, but I don't know. Also, what they say, there are only at 10 female developers at Rocksteady, which seems very low, but then the industry at large is very male dominated. So
well, see, the original letter was apparently 10 out of 16 women that worked there who signed the letter. And then out of those 10, 2 have left in the intervening 2 years. And so the unsolicited letter was from 8. The 8 people the 8 women who remain.
Or no, 8 of those 10 people are left. 7 of those 8 wrote the new letter.
Oh, okay. Oh boy. All right.
Right. So I mean, it sounds like Rocksteady is making progress, which is a story you don't tend to hear very much when it comes to, about workplace, workplace inappropriateness.
Yeah. I think maybe just the takeaway here is just be professional at your job. I guess I've worked very non-traditional jobs for quite some time, right? But and I know that a lot of times when you have a job, a lot of times you go to your job every single day and then you start to get chummy and it becomes a little bit less formal. But for God's sake, just be professional at your work. Don't all that stuff that came out of Ubisoft a few weeks back, it's awful, and don't do it. There we go. That should
there you go. You heard it from Jeff. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's it. Speaking of don't do it, E3 put out, oh my God, there was this whole thing last week. This was so stupid. Salon wrote this article that was a Parade, not Salon. Yeah, Parade. There was an article that was written that was like, the games we play, 25 games that women enjoy. And then E3 retweeted this article saying, great list of games women gamers are playing. Any of your favorite games make the cut. When you go to this list, which I don't know if this is a link to it or not, but it was, this is an web archive link. It was like the number one thing was Sudoku. And then from there, it was like
Sudoku misspelled very wrong. Sudoku.
I wasn't sure whether that was like an app name or something, but okay, so Sudoku.
And then also like first off, like Parade not really blowing up the spot with journalism at all right now anyway, so like the writing of this is super weird. That the H2 on this is free games for women, but a lot. Sayonara Wild Hearts is number 2 on this list, and that is not a free game
right anywhere.
So like this is the EA account, which is in fucking turmoil because there's no E3 and there might not ever be another one. Looking to do what social media managers do, which is engage the community with, hey, look, content about a minority group. Oh, this article fucking sucks.
Yep.
It's Yep. Candy Crush is on here. Candy Crush is number 3, by the way, if you're listening.
Candy Crush, yep. The best part, what was the one where it was like Bejeweled? Diamonds are a girl's best friend. Am I right, ladies? And these are even more fun when they come in a variety of sizes, neon colors, and when you're rewarded for properly matching them. Here's the thing, man. Like, the people play. I feel like this is a thing that I used to fight with this one guy on my website about, where it was just like, well, women don't really play for real video games. They just play like phone games. And it's like, but that's just not true. Like, I mean, I'm sure that plenty of women do play phone games, but first off, phone games are games. Like, I'm not here to gatekeep what games are which. And I mean, yeah, you've got this list, but first off, this feels like, what is it, advertainment or whatever, where it's like a sponsored post. Kim Kardashian's Hollywood Adventure, and just
Harvest Moon Seeds of Memories, like not even a good Harvest Moon game. I don't even know what the like. Scroll up one of those that I looked into, Casino World. Casino World's like one of those games you see fucking banner ads for with like weird little like big eye avatars and stuff like. But then also you've got like Bang Dream Girls Band Party, which is a J-pop like gotcha game. So like that's also on this list between Bejeweled and the ad Casino World and Kardashian.
It's bad. It's bad. Cut it out.
Content mills. It's content mills.
Yeah.
It's content mills. You gotta make a list. You gotta make a list, Jeff.
Yeah. You gotta have a list. It's got to be a list. Tetris
on the list.
You know how
the game of life. The game of life. What the fuck? They've got a virtual game of life.
You know how all the hot chicks at the club are into Tetris these days. I see them all on their Tetris phones with their girlfriends, and I'm like, "Yo, girl, I like Tetris," and they're like, "Get away from me, Jeff from Rage Select. We don't like you." And I'm like, "Okay, that's legit."
I think it would be. You could get a Kotaku article out of looking at this list and seeing in which of these games you can get married in, because I think it's more than half. I think it may be more than half. That's just that's a free pitch. That's a free pitch from me to you, listener.
Yeah. This is stupid. They've since deleted all this stuff. That's good. I mean, fine. Just this is so dumb. Let's see. Speaking of dumb, this is real dumb. I didn't know this was happening, but apparently big companies like Burger King, or this was actually an advertising company that Burger King had hired, are using, like when you have that plugin on your Twitch channel where if somebody donates, it reads out their donation thing in computer voice to basically advertise Burger King by giving $5 to a streamer and then like using it to create a commercial on their stream because it just gets read out and there's no like gatekeeping on those things. This is bad and crappy. and probably against the terms of service of Twitch, almost certainly. And just blah, blah. Cut it out, Burger King.
And could be super illegal. In this Kotaku article, they talked to one of the people who. So I tweeted when I first found this out because I had just seen the clip that the advertising agency made, which is like very heavily censored webcam footage over very obviously not real video games, and they've distorted the voices a lot. And to me, I saw that and said, okay, none of this is real. None of this I don't think is even real. Like one of the text to speeches that is used in the commercial doesn't even sound like a text to speech that people use. And so I assumed that this was all fake, but apparently some of the people in there are real and have figured out who they were. Another person that I talked to was probably going to be a part of this, or they had also gotten the donations but were not included in the ad. But either way, one of the quotes in there makes a very good point. Like the FTC might have something. The FTC or the I think it's the FTC. Whichever one is like really concerned about disclosing ads and product placement and stuff would have a lot to say about this, right? I mean, this is the Twitch equivalent of like mail fraud, right? The mail fraud scam where you get sent a product and then that you never paid for, and then someone comes asking for money. Like this is a version of that, except also it's advertising, so that's a bigger crime. This is so stupid. I thought it was so stupid it couldn't possibly have been real, and I have just the levels have been broached further than I thought they could ever go, Jeff.
This to me, I didn't really know about this until I read this, but when I read it, I was like, of course. This sounds exactly like the sort of thing that some young advertising marketing guy at the company who's like, oh my God, I had this great idea this weekend when I was fucking drinking martinis. Like they have a thing that reads out whatever we type in. We could totally use that. Like nobody's gonna care. It's just $5. It's like 1 second, whatever. I'm totally gonna bring this to my bosses and we're gonna totally do this. And it's stupid. And you should not do that. You should stop it, Burger King. Just put your commercial in front of my YouTube video like you always do with that fucking Dr. Squatch asshole, and I'll skip it and not go to Burger King, and then we'll all be happy, all right? Nobody goes to Burger King, and then you get to have your commercial, and everybody's fine. So
now, Jeff, here's the other thing. Okay, so this is bad. They shouldn't have done this. This is taking advantage of people who already don't make a lot of fucking money on the internet in the first place.
Yeah.
This was also cheaper than buying a TV ad, and it has generated way more impassioned word of mouth about the Burger King. This is...
It's true.
Yes. Bad. But... highly effective. Very effective. Ridiculously effective.
For like $500, they got an article on Kotaku that mentioned the word Burger King like 50 times, and people are like, that sucks. Man, I want some Burger King now. That's weird. I want to get one of those Impossible Whoppers. That's strange.
It's going to be a non-zero number because no one's going to write Burger King off forever because Rubber Ninja accidentally was given, or not accidentally, but was given $20 as like a fakey advertising thing. No one's gonna boycott Burger King over this, and this was way cheaper than spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on national TV spots. It's not good. It's very effective. There are bad things out in the world, Jeff. I'm sure you know there are bad things that are very effective at the thing that they want to do.
Yep. Like Facebook.
Who
is effective at getting you to make a Facebook account if you want to use an Oculus device, apparently. So last week it was basically rolled out that like from here forward, if you want to use an Oculus product, you're going to need to have a Facebook account. If you already have an Oculus account, you can keep that for 3 years, and then it's going to be rolled back into, then you'll need to roll it into the Facebook architecture. This is not making a lot of people happy because a lot of people don't want a goddamn Facebook account, Mark Zuckerberg. I just bought this VR headset and I don't want to have to log in to Facebook. So,
Jeff, I don't know if I mentioned this. Sometimes bad things are very effective, right? Netflix has autoplay trailers, and even now that you can turn them off, I'm sure they're still a very effective thing that a lot of people don't fucking want to see. This will keep people in the fit because Jeff. Okay, so then here you go. You come home from work after a long day of at the salt mines for the Burger King Corporation, and you
want to play Fall Guys in your Oculus VR.
Well, you strap on your Oculus Quest and say, you get a little bit of gaming in, right? You just kind of escape to, island vacation simulator, and you go, oh man, I'm really hungry. I could go for a poke bowl. And so you just order from Facebook Food, I think is what it's called. And you just order it's just all in one thing, right? If you want to order food or, sell a couch or really do some dating, really post about your dead dog, that's all synergy, baby. That's all synergy.
Yeah. It's good that I don't want to do any of that stuff. I don't want to buy a couch or eat food or talk about my dog. All I want to do is play video games. I was actually considering, since I did the system upgrade, whether a Oculus Quest might work because I really want to play Half-Life Alyx. But, and I'll be really honest, this would not stop me if one of these Oculus headsets works because I have a Facebook account. And I understand why people don't want a Facebook account. Like, I have a Facebook account that I use to cross-post Rage Select content, and I never look at anything else. I don't look at what my friends do on Facebook. I don't open it up or scroll or look at anything. It was bumming me out too hard, and it took me about a year, and I finally managed to wean myself off of Facebook to the point where I don't even try to look at it anymore. But I could definitely understand people who don't want that.
I think, all jokes aside, I have a Facebook account that I don't use. Sure, most people have a Facebook account for one reason or another. Instagram, right? Or is it WeChat that Facebook also owns? Facebook's already got you, and I think the number of people who say, I'm not going to use the Oculus Quest anymore because I have to merge it with Facebook is probably very small. I think there's going to be a lot of hand-wringing and thinking, they shouldn't do that, but most people will live. You'll live.
It reminds me of every time Facebook used to change the layout and everybody was like, that's it, I'm done with Facebook. And then it's like, oh no, look, there you are. It's been 5 years and you're still on Facebook. So let's see. We're going to pick up the pace because we are running long today. So we got a trailer. Let's do some trailers. We got a trailer this week. They got this 13-minute. This is kind of like not really a game. This is like a beta, kind of a proof of concept type of thing for Black Myth Wukong, which is this kind of monkey. Well, it's the Monkey King, right? The Chinese,
the monkey hero, Monkey King,
the kind journey to the west
sort of thing.
Yeah, but
you're
kind
a monkey guy.
Through like a little Soulsy. It's got a little Souls DNA in it. You got like a stamina bar. It's got the kind of behind the back, the third person action stuff. I like the whole turning into a bug for stealth. I thought that was really an interesting looking. I don't know if you watched this trailer or not, but
I skipped through a lot of that bug stuff because I thought this is 13 minutes. This is, I'm sure, a fine introduction, but I'd like to see the game now, please. Okay, so you turn into the cicada to stealth around. That is interesting.
Yep. And then it looks like I'm not super familiar with Journey to the West, but this is, it looks good. It's obviously made in, some Unreal variant. All the assets look really nice. There's kind of a big boss fight at the end with like this big wolf looking guy. This is not like something, this is like at this point, it's like something that's being used to generate interest in this company and to get like talent for them to work on it. This is like nowhere near release or any kind of like direct thing, but as a proof of concept, it looks really good. So if they can get something that looks like that, I would be interested in playing it. I mean, doesn't look bad. I think what I played Odyssey, the Ninja Theory game,
Assassin's Creed. Oh,
no,
okay.
no, Journey to the West with Andy Serkis, and then there was another like kind of side scrolling beat 'em up one that was the Monkey King and his pals do a thing, but I don't think I've ever actually watched any of like the movies or played anything that's like just a direct adaptation.
Yeah. All I remember is they made a PlayStation 1 game, which I think was called Monkey Hero, which I think was maybe loosely based on it, but it was more like, it was just like a Zelda type game.
Okay. We got a trailer for Wasteland 3, co-op trailer. This is a little strange. Playing a Fallout style game co-op is a little bizarre.
Turn-based. Is Wasteland 2 was turn-based, right?
I believe it's turn-based, yeah. The thing that's even more strange is it seems like once you team up with somebody, like if you log out, they can log into your shared game and like take all your shit and destroy the world. Like there's a whole thing in this trailer where they say like, make sure you can trust your friends, and it shows like the world in flames, and then like the characters, all their stuff has gotten taken off of them while they were logged out, which is a really strange idea for co-op. Like if you don't trust your friends, they'll come and take all your stuff while you're asleep and destroy the world and all of your alliances and stuff. I don't know. Strange concept. I'm still on the fence
so
on Wasteland because two didn't really click for me, and this looks okay, but it's very flat. It's not super flashy.
Yeah, I did not like Wasteland 2. I think I was a crowd funder for it when it was on Kickstarter, Wasteland 2. And really didn't like it, because I think aesthetically it kind of didn't quite feel right. And I look at this Wasteland 3 trailer and feel the same thing, where it's like, this feels like the sense of scale is wrong, I think is what I'm trying to say. Like it feels very zoomed out, but the art style feels like it should be very, very close, right? Like this kind of looks like it's been mapped and designed in a way, if you were making a third person, if you were making like a Fallout game, like if you were just making a Fallout game that was third person, it would look like this, but they've zoomed the camera way out. And so I on that front, and then to the writing of 2 just didn't get me. So I co-op is very interesting. How you do co-op with a turn-based game like this is an interesting idea as well. Keeping a shared world could be cool, right? Like you both kind of are working, asynchronously with the goals of the game. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting to say the least.
This one's going to be on Game Pass, so that's another good reason just to, I'll give it a shot because I'm not going to be paying much more for it. I'm significantly more excited about No Straight Roads, as I have been for quite a while. Did you watch this trailer? Are you familiar with No Straight Roads?
I saw the trailer, but I did not know about it beforehand. Really, what I pulled from this trailer is that it's a very colorful and slightly rhythm-based brawler.
I think it's got some. I think it's got some definite. Yeah, it's got some real time. It actually kind of reminds me more of like Kingdom Hearts, where it's like real time action, but then with some RPG mechanics in for upgrades and stuff like that. But I just the aesthetic has been killing it for me since the first day that I saw it. This whole just like dubstep has taken over Music Town, and you are the last rock and roll Avenger who's got to knock out the corporate dubstep in order to take back the power to the people. I don't know. Like I'm in it for that. I love the aesthetic of it. I like this kind of like half anime, but it's also kind of weird. I don't know, Cartoon Network, Liquid Television type of thing that they've got going on here. I don't know.
Also, like the rock and roll versus EDM element to this. Like this trailer that we watched, it's What Is No Straight Road. So it's very like kind of a dry explanation of what this game is.
Yeah.
It's not till the end that they're like, and rock and roll can overtake the music industry and take it back, end the EDM empire is what the tagline says. It's like, well, I like dance music. And also, like, you're using a lot of like EDM aesthetics in the design of this. Like if you're telling me that this is a pro rock and roll game, I think you're taking it from some very strange inspiration.
Well, we'll find out. Let's see, when this podcast comes out, we'll find out in 2 days because it's actually out
Tuesday,
on the 25th. So let's see. And then I'm going to skip this Martha is Dead trailer. This is a very much kind of walking around, solving a mystery type of game. Check it out if you're into Bloober stuff. Also, I'm going to cut out this Breath of the Wild 2 thing because it's nothing. We got some Amazon leaks. So Skyward Sword, potentially for the Switch, got listed on, was it UK Amazon? I would be really, really happy if they took all the motion controls out of Skyward Sword and made a version of Skyward Sword for the Switch that didn't have any motion controls. Because that was not my favorite Zelda game, but the motion controls just made it like, well, I mean, I played Skyward Sword back when I was reviewing a game every week, so I had to beat a game every single week. And so marathoning through a motion controlled game was not my idea of a good time. No, it is not a lot of work, but it is continuous. You can't stop swinging your arms. You don't have to like swing your arms as hard as you can, but you do have to stand in front of the TV for 12 to 14 to 20 hours swinging your arms around without stopping. So, yeah. Did you?
It makes sense to do a port like this. I did not play Skyward Sword. I was not. Zelda games are not exactly my thing, and so they especially were not at the time of Skyward Sword. So I have very few thoughts about it one way or the other, but it makes sense in a world where the last original Zelda thing people love is still probably a year or so away with Breath of the Wild 2, that you would keep doing work on porting these games forward to a new successful console generation.
It actually makes me really wonder, because I still wonder whether we're going to see Super Mario 64 Galaxy and World. No, not World. Sunshine ported, because there was this whole kind of idea that this was the year of Mario. But then we also got that was the rumor before COVID.
Big rumor.
Yeah. But then we also got the announcement of Pikmin 3 remaster that's coming out soon. I think before the end of the year. And then if this is happening before the end of the year, it makes me wonder if E3 this year from Nintendo was supposed to have this like huge throwback to the Wii and the kind of N64, GameCube, Wii U, just like we're taking all the best games from all our old consoles and we're going to let you have all of them before the year is out type of thing. Because this is the last game I ever would have expected to be ported to the Switch.
It's maybe it's a better game. I only know of it as kind of a tough game because of the motion controls and some of the aesthetic stuff. Maybe it's a much better game when you play it with a joypad. Gosh, we've seen Nintendo spend a lot of time putting forward these deluxe ports of previous games, Wii and Wii U games. So it's not crazy to have this happen, and it's not something that I think you would spend a lot of time on a direct talking about. But also the publishers really are being very kind of tight-lipped with announcements a little bit. We still don't know a lot of what's coming up in the next gen lineup. Mm-hmm. We don't know a lot of details about those features and prices and stuff. So everyone is being really tight-lipped, and maybe they know that a lot of development is getting pushed back and that ports are not going to excite people, especially maybe not a Skyward Sword one.
True. We also got a Switch listing for Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. Bryce, if you have anything to say, you could say it now. I don't give a shit about Need for Speed. Burnout for life. I'm not a big fan of Need for Speed, so...
I don't remember which one Hot Pursuit is. I think I own one called Most Wanted, but not the more recent one called Most Wanted, the older one called Most Wanted. This seems like a weird port, but go off, I guess.
Yep. It's not, it never even made it to the PS4 or Xbox One. It was the PC, PS3, Wii, and 360 game, as well as it seems phone. It seems they ported it to phones for some reason. But yeah, I think this was the...
Well, I wonder why you do this instead of like Underground, like a beloved Need for Speed game, beloved iconic Need for Speed game. And I guess music licensing is a big part of that, but like,
or wait,
major iconic. So I don't know.
Yeah. Also, there's a Prince of Persia remaster or remake. I feel like as I was reading through this, it was completely unclear which Prince of Persia we're talking about. Like they remade they did an HD kind of remake of the original one, and then there was Sands of Time was kind of a reboot, and then there was the 2008 one with Nolan North where you couldn't die and everybody hated it. And it's like, which Prince of Persia are we remaking here? Because that's going to depend on my level of excitement. I would be really interested in playing Sands of Time again, because I feel like that game is kind of at this point a little janky. We can go back to it. It's just it's aged quite a bit, so it'd be nice. And that to me is at least the best or the most beloved that I know of Prince of Persia game from that whole era when they're bringing it back. But did you play Sands of Time?
No, I don't think I've played any of those Prince of Persia games. But I think in a world where like people are really into like Assassin's Creed and did we talk about this before of like, you know, Assassin's Creed kind of eating Prince of Persia's lunch, especially 1 and 2. Yeah,
I can see it.
Then maybe now is a good time to like, hey, also, do you remember Prince of Persia? Here's a kind of new, interesting, very, very movement focused character action game.
Yep. And then we got some delays. Deathloop is not coming out this year. I'm not horrifically surprised that this is a thing. Apparently, the switch to working from home has caused some delays. They want to make sure it's right. I trust Arcane. I like their stuff. And then also the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe is delayed until 2021, which I believe is the second time. I feel like the first time they had that trailer where it was delayed out of 2019 into 2020 or from early to late 2020 or something like that. Right. And now it's out too.
And to hear them talk about this, a little bit about this is that, so this is Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which is an enhanced version of the Stanley Parable, which is a purchasable version of an older game experience called the Stanley Parable, which was like a Source engine mod, basically. And I think it was in one of the email newsletters that they sent out, basically saying like, yeah, like we are. Or no, it was one of the developers, and not William Pugh, but the other guy. Basically saying like we keep finding things to add and we keep wanting to expand the scope a little bit, which I think is fine. Like I think because the Stanley Parable already exists and already has enough good stuff in it that if you're saying like here's another new SKU called the Stanley Parable, the thing I would want out of it is even more writing, even more experiences, even more endings. The endings are a very big part of this game, so I would hope that, much like they did for like Accounting and Accounting Plus, going from free to a purchase thing, I would hope that they continue to really make that a big packed experience.
I agree.
Also, you saw these graphics that they made, right? So like,
with the Spider-Man. No, that's not them.
The Spider-Man ones. Yes.
So, is that
like? So that's a picture of Spider-Man Miles Morales. They even put the logo of Stanley Parable over a Miles Morales logo because they had been doing this with the Halo delay, which was announced last week. And you just saw the other one for Deathloop, or I think it's under this image, where they had taken the Deathloop one and put Stanley Parable in there. So they scared everybody with using Miles Morales assets also to announce the Stanley Parable was delayed, thinking like, oh, this is how I'm going to find out that Miles Morales has been delayed.
That is absolutely perfect. And last but not least, I cut out a lot of the other stuff I had here, but I liked this story about a bunch of Fall Guys players that basically dragged one AFK player through one of the elimination puzzles. Right? Like I haven't played it enough, but apparently this was a thing where they noticed that one of the players was there, and then like 2 or 3 people worked together to basically drag their avatar so that they didn't get knocked out. And that's just what we need in this time.
That's cute.
Yeah. I promised you a game review. A game review we'll have. Everybody should go play Mortal Shell. That's a really good game. I beat it. It's $30. It's 12 hours, and it's a great introduction to Souls-style games if you haven't ever done that before. It's less complex than most of the other Souls games. There are 4 archetypes that do not have stats to upgrade. There are 4 weapons that have a very limited set of upgrades. There are 1 hub area, 3 dungeons. Each dungeon has a boss, and then you fight 1 more boss. Then the game is over, and you're into New Game Plus. It is a little sparse, and the story doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. But at $30, I feel like it's a great introduction to Souls mechanics without having to come to it. Now, for seasoned Souls players, I think are like, hate this game because it's slower than the current Souls games are. It's not complex. It doesn't have any way to make different builds or interesting, you can't make a mage, right? Like there's like the heavy hitter, the light fast guy, medium, and then kind of a specialist that does different kinds of power attacks.
But it's not magic. Don't listeners, that magic man is not magic. Nope. It's not a mage.
You've got consumable items. You've got some super. Everybody has 2 super attacks, 1 parry and a kick, and that's kind of it. I just put out a video today that I don't normally do, where I'm just like tips and tricks, because I played the game and I kind of just marathoned it last week. And I think it's totally worth $30. So, have you played anything recently that you feel is totally worth $30, Bryce?
Have I played anything recently that's worth?
Did you? $30? I caught you one Friday playing. Did you keep up with Ghost of Tsushima? I caught your streaming, and I felt like you were having a real bad time with like an outpost, and I was just like, oh no.
For whatever reason, I don't have a good time with that game on stream, so I actually stopped playing it on stream a few weeks back. I played a game on Twitch. I wouldn't say it's probably worth $30, but I think it's like a $12 game called There Is No Game. And if I can do a mini review, it's like a meta comedy point and click game. And Jeff, I'm sure, I don't know if you would agree with this statement, but I tend to find that meta comedy games, or really just any comedy game, tends to not have very good writing or very good comedy, right? I sometimes I play these games and I don't really laugh, and so I wonder what the fuck we're doing here. Like the Pony Island, the game that everybody loves because it's so creepy, it's actually the devil. Like, I think that is just the most trite, like uninteresting, uninspired game of all time. Where There Is No Game like has like both pretty good writing, but also like voice acting with like pretty good delivery, like some fun concepts, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, I accidentally played almost all of it on stream the other day. But I thought that like it had both a mix of like some challenge, right? Because if you have a story game, sometimes you don't want to have a lot of challenge in terms of puzzles. This one actually had like good challenge. For a point and click game, the logic on how to solve things generally made a lot of sense. And it tells it kind of doesn't try to do too much. I think it tells a pretty good, consistent story. So it's not $30, but it's I think $20. The most recent gaming experience I've had. Is it $20?
We played 2 parts of it. So we played 2 hours of it for really? Patrons. Yeah, Amanda and I played it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we got to the end of the the point click part into the Zelda part, and then decided that we probably weren't going to play the rest of it on stream. Yeah, but I was very, very impressed at the subtle pushing that the narrator did in the adventure game part when we got stuck, that he would repeat these things that were just like, okay, I need to be over in this panel. There's something in here that I'm not seeing yet. But yeah, that was it was extremely well written. It really starts off with a bang, and I could see. We looked at a walkthrough to see how much of it there was, but yeah, I mean, for as just like a brief game experience, it's like 100%, totally. Yeah. And that's it. So mail@redslate.com. We didn't get to do any questions this week, but it's the summer of like 1 million announcements, so we will do questions at some point. Bryce, where can the people find you when you're not over here helping me with the podcast?
You can find me on Twitter at Brycas, Brycas. I also do a lot of streaming on Friday nights. I do game streaming on Friday nights at twitch.tv/nightattack. And lastly, I have a video game newsletter. It had been, I think the last time I was on, I was really trying to make it weekly. And now I'm trying to make it a little more focused, so it's not just trying to put together news lists like the last email I did was like over a week ago, and that was kind of breaking down, talking a little bit more about the Apple and Google and Epic thing. So trying to make those maybe a little more pointed and a little less frequent, but you can sign up for that at my website, neshcom.com, neshcom.com.
Okay, and that's it another podcast. Go play video games and just cut it out. Cut it out.